Hello, good morning. We gonna watch this trial today, Craig. You ain't, it's, what is it, how does it go? Let's see. We're gonna watch this trial today, Craig. You ain't got no job and you ain't got shit to do. Good morning. I had it all in my head and then I was looking at the chat and I read Just Alice, which obviously, my cat, my bestie, my boss, my supervisor, as it were, the channel mascot is one Alice the cat. If you are a member, she is one of the emojis. So it got me a little distracted because I thought, oh, how cute. And then I forgot the joke. Sorry, you guys. Let me say good morning. Hello, Amelia Sparkles. Hello, good morning, Just Alice. Hello, Anna. Oh, you're a new sub from over at Brittany. Thank you very, very much for coming on over. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that very much, Just Alice. Hey, Anna. How you guys doing this morning? Here, I'll show you guys. Let me give you the emoji for good morning, Mrs. O. Good morning, Chick Tracy. Let me show you guys Alice's sticker. There you go. There she is in all her glory. I hope everyone is having a great morning. It is round 2 of cross-examination, but before we get into it and I go over to the trial, the stream, they're probably going to be live very shortly here. I need to give a word from our sponsors.
And Kai, when you're on Jen Lou's channel, what do you do with the like button?
Smash, smash, smash! Yeah.
And there you have it. Please give your girl a thumbs up on the stream. It helps with the algorithm. It helps all the things. Even if it's a thumb down, just leave. If also, it's a good alibi. Just saying. All right. So what a day yesterday. I'm really, really hoping that today, Mr. Waters, after he went home last night and had a moment to just put his feet up and relax and decompress a little bit, he is refreshed and renewed and remembers that Alec is an attorney and he is questioning an attorney and a trial attorney at that and a personal injury attorney at that. And personal injury lawyers are it's a different skill set. And hold on just a second. And that, he needs to keep that in mind. And today I really, 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 I sound like the donkey. Really, really, he needs to get past this financial crimes. I know that there's a part of him that doesn't want to move past it because then Alec would really be controlling the questioning, right? Because yesterday Alec was very, adamant about, I've admitted that I committed financial crimes. I admitted that I stole from my clients. I've admitted all of that. I admitted that it was wrong, yada, yada, yada. Right. And I mean, he pretty well stuck to that. And I think that there's a bit of pride involved in not wanting to just move on too terribly quickly from that, because does seem like that is what Alec wants him to do. However, I think the jury also wants him to do that. I think that the jury wants to hear the cross-examination on the trial that they're here to rule on, or to present a verdict on, to judge, right? Which is the murder trial, not the financial crimes trial. And if he leads too much into, in my opinion, if he leads too much or goes too much into these financial schemes, I'm concerned that the jury may think it doesn't really matter what we do in this trial. He's got pending charges in the financial crimes. Even if he were found guilty on half of the charges in the financial trial, he would likely serve the rest of his life, spend the rest of his natural life in prison, right? And so they may think it doesn't matter what we do here. So I don't want them to do that. I want, Paul and Maggie deserve justice. So I really want them to focus on what they're supposed to be focusing on, which is the murder charges. And I would really like for him, exactly right, Mrs. O, I think it's up here. You said it. Let me see. Where did I see it? Yes, Anna, he is an admitted liar. And it wasn't Mrs. O, it's Elise Soleil. Where did it go? There it is. Let's get straight to the timeline. Exactly right. Straight to the timeline. Hey, Charlie, how you doing, babe? Hope everything's going good your way. Anybody who is, I understand that some people are in under a blizzard situation. I am very sorry for that. Now I know that, some people are used to it. I know I couldn't do it. I'm going to tell y'all right now. After having been in Florida for a while now, I don't know that I could do the cold anymore. I think it might be too much for your girl. So he needs to get back on track. And I think, like, I'm echoing a lot of the sentiments from a lot of people all over social media, and even probably potentially the jury. It's time to get back to what we're here for, which is a murder trial, and let's go. Let's I want to see him questioned about that timeline. I really do. And I want to see him pressed on his version of events with respect to the kennel, why he lied, and, all of that. It's time. Okay, babe. All right, Charlie. So, oh, you gave your kitties an extra treat on Alice the cat's behalf. Well, blizzarding in Michigan. Ugh. Well, I'll tell you what, Alice the cat is not pleased with me at this time. In fact, I feel like I'm going to have a donkey barbecue later with HR. I think there's going to be definitely a meeting. Alice does not appreciate the fact that I am streaming during the day. She's like, Mom, I can deal with it at night, but during the day, no, it's too much, and I'm mad. So she is currently in the living room pouting. So if anything happens to me, please look into Alice, because she is not happy with your girl. And it's 9:29 here where I am, which is where they are too, and they still haven't started the trial yet. Yeah, she's big mads. Oh my goodness, a whiteout, Anna? Holy moly. Mrs. O, you're in Florida? Are you close, like I am, to Hernando County, where there's the missing 2-year-old that, just bless his little heart, he wandered out of his house yesterday? And I've been trying to sort of keep up with that. I was listening to JB on WFLA this morning, and I've got to get caught up on that. because I'm always, it breaks my heart when any child, obviously, is missing or, in danger or any of that stuff. It's heartbreaking. He's just two, he's just a baby. So, my gosh. And this morning, oh, you're on the other coast. Okay. And this morning, over here on the west coast of the Floridas, we had very, very, very dense fog. When I woke up this morning and I overslept, y'all, your girl has been burning the candle at both ends, but honestly, it's been so good for me. I love it. I love it. I love being here with you guys. I love talking about trials. Trials are the thing that I like the best because, in my opinion, um, this is where we find out all the things. Thankfully, we here in Florida now, January is usually when we get like, if it's going to be cold, it'll be cold in January. And by February, particularly by the end of February, you can pretty much be like, it's fine. It's not going to be, and I don't mean like legitimately cold. I mean Florida cold. Okay. That's just, Florida cold is different, but usually you can bank on it not being too terribly cold. In fact, it was in the 80s, I believe. Oh, thank you, Mrs. O. I believe it was in the 80s yesterday. It was pretty warm and muggy, but this morning it was really foggy when I got up, and I overslept. I was like, oh, so because I wanted to. I am enjoying the poot. I know that people have their feelings about the poot, but for me, Dick Harpootlian, he just makes the best faces. It's his faces for me, really. That's what makes me laugh the most are the faces that he makes. And I have referred to him and Jim Griffin as Statler and Waldorf. Although I have to say, the other day or yesterday, Spaghetti Westerns coined him said he looked like Yoda. And they were not wrong, but he reminds me of the Empire Strikes Back Yoda, that Yoda who was mean. And as a kid, I guess I didn't really pick up on it. And every so often, I will rewatch the first three episodes, technically the last three, right? Um, but the original three. And I will remember how I will have forgotten or had forgotten. And I watched it recently and I was like, holy moly, Yoda's kind of a jerk. I never realized that before. So yeah, he is like, okay, Mrs. O, I hope it goes. Good for you, babe. Yeah, it's been in the 80s here. So back to my original point, which I don't know how I got off in the weeds on Yoda, but whatever. Thank you, Mrs. O, for hitting the thumbs up. He is entertainment, just Alice. He is. But anyway, back to his name is Joshua Rollin or Roland. And he's just two, and he's so, so cute. His picture is up on my community uh, tab. And just keep your eyes peeled, share it out, please. You never know who's watching and who sees your posts and stuff. So just keep an eye out for the little guy. And what I will say is, although I shudder to think at him being outside alone for 24 hours, it's because it's coming up on 24 hours that he's been missing. At least it wasn't cold last night, so bless his heart. I just hope he's found. I know that they're sending the helicopters up and all that. So let's hope for some good news today. Let's see what's going on. Let me add this to the stream real quick and see if we're back in. We're not quite back in session just yet. We're not live. So what did you guys think yesterday of Alec's testimony? Do you think that he helped himself, or hurt himself? A combination of both? What do you guys think? Hey, Lindsay Lee. Oh, yesterday was a whole shit show, frankly. I don't know how else to say it. Okay. It's live. Let me unmute. Let's see what's happening today. I don't know why we don't have audio. I don't think it's my issue. I think it was a little bit of both, too. I agree. There we go. Oh, okay, Amelia, absolutely. Yes, ma'am. I'm on it. And I'm going to drop the membership link too, because we're coming up on the end of the month.
Thank you. Good morning.
Please consider joining membership.
Day number 24. Cross-examination. You may proceed.
May it please the court. Morning, Mr. Murdaugh.
Good morning, Mr. Waters.
All right, let's see if we can move forward with this a little bit. See if we can go back to some things we may be able to agree on.
All right.
All right. First thing is that the money you were stealing and
I had to pause for commentary just real quick. I like to be just slightly behind in the stream. It does, help as far as, keeping any potential copyright claims at bay. Long Crime's usually pretty cool about it, especially if you do provide commentary. But I would like for everybody to, first of all, we're doing the lean in and listen. Let's comment on Mr. Waters here. I hope you guys can see let me make it slower. I don't want to get anybody dizzy. He's doing the lean in and listen. And then let's look at Mr. Harpootlian over here. Mr. Harpootlian has put on his glasses, which usually he reserves to let people know he's not messing around, and he's changed seats. Either no, he has not changed seats. He's still at the end of the defense table, but Mr. Griffin over here has scooched closer. There is no longer a chair in between Mr. Griffin and Harpootlian. I suspect it's because they're going to watch this for a while, and then Harpootlian's going to bust out his cell phone like he did yesterday. And my guess is that he's playing Matchington Mansion, and Jim is helping him and also sending him lives, because that game cheats. I'm telling you right now, I play that game and that game cheats. All right, here we go.
in addition to your income and the money you were borrowing was not just to pay for drugs. Would you agree with that?
Sure.
All right. And would you agree that your stealing, in addition to the money you were borrowing, increased over the years as we moved towards June of 2021?
Repeat that, please, sir.
Sure. Would you agree that your stealing increased over the years as we moved towards June of 2021?
Yes, sir.
All right. And would you admit that your stealing increased in particular after the boat wreck?
No, sir. I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with that?
I think I continued to do it, but I don't. As I sit here today, I don't think I took more money that I should not have taken after the boat wreck than I did before the boat wreck.
Okay.
But again, those documents speak for themselves, Mr. Waters, and if that's the case, then that's the case. But as we sit here, I think that I probably wrongly took from clients and people that trusted me as much money before that boat wreck as after.
All right. And
If
I'm
not
just trying to get through this so we don't get bogged down like we did yesterday. All right.
I understand.
All right. So you wouldn't agree with me that in 2019 alone, you stole about $3.7 million?
No, I think that's correct.
All right. And would you agree with me though that figure in 2019 was generally higher than any other year that you've been stealing since 2011?
In any year, sure, I'd agree with that.
Okay.
I thought you were talking about overall, the whole cycle. But
All right.
yeah, I would agree that in 2019, I stole more money than any other year.
Would you agree with me that from 2015 on, your legitimate income, while still very strong, was diminishing as a general matter?
Well, I think whatever my income is speaks for itself, but as a general rule,
Hold on just a
plaintiff's
second.
lawyer doing what we do,
Thank you, Amelia. So sweet. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
income ebbs and flows. You have some really good years, you have some really lean years. And no, I think I had some good years, maybe not the, $4 and $5 million years, but I think I had some $2 and $3 million years in there. And my caseload was such that, I had, one of the things I was working on that Monday was one of the biggest cases that I've ever been involved in.
Talking about the Dominion case, right?
Yes, sir. And so, I think it was cyclical. I don't, without looking at the record specifically, I don't necessarily agree with that.
Okay. So you don't remember then?
No, I do remember. I don't think I agree with that. But again, those records will speak for themselves.
Okay. All right. So would you agree with me that in 2014, your reported income was over $1 million?
The objection is overruled.
Reported income, like tax-wise, or reported? I assume you have a document that says that, and if you're reading that from a document, I don't dispute it.
I'm happy to show it to you if you like.
I trust you, Ms. Waters.
Where else do people report income?
All right. 2015, would you agree that your reported income was over $2 million?
Again, I don't dispute that.
All right. 2016, reported income, $900,000.
Okay,
2017, reported income, $218,000.
okay,
2018, reported income of $749,000, roughly.
okay.
And 2019, reported income of $655,000.
All right.
Okay, and see, I mean, to me, that demonstrates exactly what I'm talking about, how it goes up and down.
And would you agree with me that though during those periods of time where you were making that kind of money, you continued to steal? And I think you've already said that your stealing increased as we move through those years as a general matter.
Absolutely. I don't dispute, and I have never disputed since I was confronted on Labor Day weekend,
Right.
that I took money from my clients.
We've gone through that. And I
Well,
think
but you
we
keep
agree with
asking
that.
me
I'm
about
asking
that.
you if your income.
You can finish your answer.
So the point is I have never, since being confronted that day, my brother and my partner came to talk to me, that I have stolen money that did not belong to me, that I misled people to do it, people that I cared about, still care about, a lot of them that I love and still love. And I misled him to do it, and I was wrong. I have never disputed that from day one.
We've been through that. All I'm trying to establish right now with you, Mr. Murdaugh, is as we move towards June of 2021, what your financial condition was like, okay? I agree, you've testified to that multiple times, all right? So let me ask you this. During this time that your income was what we just went through, and you conceded that your stealing was increasing, were you also borrowing significant amount of money from Palmetto State Bank?
Yes, I'd always borrowed significant amount of money from Palmetto State Bank, or for the last, more than the last decade. So yes, sir, I agree with that.
Yeah, but as we moved to June of 2021, did you have $1 million line of credit with the bank that was pretty much maxed out? Yes or no? As we moved to June of 2021.
So in June of 21,
Sure.
yes,
All right. And did you also have a $600,000 line of credit that was pretty much maxed out around that time?
I did.
All right. And did you also, over the years, repeatedly borrow six figures from your law partners?
And 5, 6, 7,
Well,
8. Hi, Shmita.
I borrowed money from a law partner,
Which one?
Johnny Parker.
Johnny Parker. Okay. And that was a fairly common occurrence over the years. It happened multiple times. Would you agree with that?
I agree that it happened multiple times.
All right. And you would agree also that you would sometimes use some of the stolen money to pay that back?
I won't dispute that. I don't know that that's the case. I know what I saw Mr. Bernie testify to in using that particular accounting method. You know, I see that.
All right.
So I don't dispute that.
All right. And would you agree that you also, when you needed money, occasionally borrow as much as 5 and 6 figures from your father, Mr. Randolph?
I did.
And would you also agree that over the years, particularly as we moved to June of 2021, you would use stolen money to pay that back?
I don't dispute that.
Okay.
If that's what the record shows.
All right. And you just mentioned here in the testimony of Carson Burney and the banker and all that, you would agree with me that as we moved to June of 2021, at least in liquid funds, you were running out of money.
In liquid funds, as in money on hand or money that I could get?
Money that you could, liquid funds. You're a lawyer, you know what liquid means. Were you
Well,
running out?
I don't know what you mean by liquid, Mr. Waters, and so
Money you could readily access, assets that you could readily access to pay your ever increasing debts.
no, sir, I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with that?
I do not agree with that,
Okay.
and I'll tell you why.
Okay,
All right.
tell us why.
So are we talking about June?
I'm talking about as we move to June.
Okay, but what time period are you talking
All right,
about?
let's talk about January to June.
Okay, January to June. January to June, you know, I could borrow money from my father.
Mhm.
I could borrow money from Johnny Parker.
Mhm.
I could go to the bank and borrow money. I had substantial equity in the Edisto house, as we've talked about.
Which was in Maggie's name, correct?
Well, it was in Maggie and my name.
All right.
So, you know,
It was?
that definitely
When was it in your name too? Maybe early on.
was
Okay,
in both our names.
all right.
Moselle was in Maggie's name. There's
Oh, that's
substantial equity in that
That's
that
right.
could have been borrowed against. So under the terms as you defined liquid assets just now, money that I would have access to, I disagree with
Okay.
on that for those reasons that I just said.
Okay,
Can we at least agree that generally the way the compensation structure for legitimate money that you earned in your law firm, the vast majority of your compensation does not come except in one lump sum in December? Can we agree to that?
Right. We get a salary. We would receive a salary. I believe our salary was $125,000.
Right.
And then the income that was earned would be paid in the form of a bonus at the year end.
All right. And then would you agree with me that that is why you stole the Ferris fees in March of 2021? Because you were in desperate need of funds and you could not wait till December to access those funds.
I think there's probably a lot of reasons why I stole those funds, but I certainly would believe or don't dispute that that's one of the reasons.
And would you agree with me that the $792,000 that you stole of those Ferris funds, that you exhausted those within about 2 months?
I don't know the time period, but I know that I exhausted them.
Now, again, I'm trying to get through this quickly
I'm exhausted
because there's
right
a lot
now.
more to talk about, obviously. But we went through a number of questions yesterday about the various clients that you stole from, correct? You remember that? The back and forth we had yesterday, do you remember all that?
Sure I do.
Okay. All right. And so I'm going to try to shortchange this, but I think it's important that we at least say the names of the people that were involved. But let's just do this to see if we can.
To the comment, Your Honor, inappropriate.
I'll rephrase, Your Honor. The clients that we're talking about, these are all real people, yes or no?
They're all real people.
All right.
They're
And
all
these
good
clients-
people.
Okay.
They're all people that I care about, that I cared about then. And a lot of them are people that I love.
Okay.
And I did wrong by them.
Yes. You hurt the people that you love. I know. So
Oh my gosh. Come on, Mr. Waters. Now, you know I love petty, but come on.
these were all people, every single one of them, that you at least had a personal conversation with at some point during the course of your representation.
All of my
About the
clients?
representation.
Absolutely. I had multiple conversations with all of my clients.
And these were people, every single one of them, real people that you looked in the eye and convinced them that everything was right.
Your Honor, 403, repetitive, cumulative. We spent 2 hours doing this yesterday.
I'm just trying to but simple questions that applies to everybody, and then I'm moving on.
Proceed.
I would have had conversations with all of my clients, and some of the conversations would have been on the telephone. I would have had conversations where I
Lord,
might not be looking them in the eye.
everybody but
I would have
Alec
had plenty of
Murdaugh
conversations
on this
where I
side
did
of
look them in the
the
eye.
All right. Every single one of them looked them in the eye at least once. Is that fair?
Sure.
Every single one of them, you looked them in the eye and developed their trust in you. Is that true?
Every client that I had, at some point, I looked them in the eye, and I believe that I had the trust of my clients. Whether that came from me looking them in the eye or not, I can't answer that, but I will agree with you that every single client, I looked them in the eye, and I believe that the people that I stole money from for all those years trusted me.
And I'm going to show you what's been previously admitted as states 329, I believe it is, and 314. And I'm just going to ask you to peruse those spreadsheets really quickly. And what you have a chance to do that, let me know. I'll have one or two questions about that.
All right, so I'm sorry. What was your question?
I just asked you to look at them. Have you had a chance to review those documents?
I have.
All right. And would you agree with me that every single name on here are either clients that trusted you that you stole from, or instances in which you stole from your law partners who trusted you as well?
I agree with that.
All right. So we don't need to go through each one of these, correct? You agree?
Mr. Waters, like I've told you, I'll go through whatever you want to go through, but each one of those clients is just what we've already talked about. Good people, fine people, upstanding people. They trusted me. Every single one of them I did, and I do still care about. And many of them I love and consider them close friends.
Like Barrett Boulware?
Absolutely. It's a perfect example.
And you stole from Barrett Boulware.
I did.
Do you recall a conversation that you had with Ronnie Crosby in which he told you that Barrett was desperate for money because he needed his wife to stay in a hotel near him while he was undergoing treatment for terminal cancer around the time that you stole from him.
Say, Your Honor.
Objections overruled.
I don't recall that conversation, but, you know, I knew Barrett was sick. You know, Barrett is a unique situation. I mean, Barrett
What?
is and was dear to me as a friend. But I mean, Barrett and I had a long history, you know. I guess really, and I lied probably more by omission, lies by omission in stealing that money.
Oh, okay.
But that's a perfect example. You keep asking about me having these conversations and looking people in the eye. I mean, that's a perfect example. I mean, when I stole that money, he was nowhere around. It was more based on lies by omission. And Barrett and I had such a history, these real estate deals that you're asking me about. Barrett was one of my good friends, and we had been in these real estate deals
You don't
together.
feel
Barrett
like
was just
he
an
is
interesting
minimizing
person. He was a
to
shrimper,
he's
was
admitting
born
it,
and
but
raised
he's
in Allendale County.
minimizing
And,
what he did.
and he
Y'all feel
moved
that
down
way?
to the coast. And
Mr. Murdaugh.
as shrimping,
Mr. Murdaugh, I don't know that we need Barrett's entire life story.
Thank
no,
you.
but it's important
Let
to
me just
understand
ask
this
you
based on
this.
the question you asked.
Oh,
I don't think his entire life story is responsive, Your Honor.
And I'm not intending to give his life story.
Well,
I'm
you
just telling
are
you a
a
little
little bit.
background.
Go
so
ahead.
you'll
Tell us
understand
about
it.
your friend that you stole from. That's fine.
So Barrett started getting into real estate, and he was really good at it. And so I started getting involved with him in that. He could go out and find pieces of property that were really cheap, get them and sell them and make money. Well, we got in some of these deals, and we got in as Barrett and it was some other people. Well, when the recession hit, one of the reasons these land deals caused me trouble is because the people that I was in these deals with no longer could pay. Whereas I might have gone in and I was a 20% person, I'm now all of a sudden, either I have to default at the bank and affect credit, affect the ability to borrow, or I have to pay 100%. And so that's what I did. I paid 100%. And so there were years where I was paying
you
instead
were
of
the victim.
a
Okay.
fifth or a half, I'm paying the whole thing. And it equated to hundreds of thousands, it equated to millions of dollars, which is one of the ways why I ended up with the Moselle property, because I had paid more than $1 million in monies for Barrett. And that was part of the deal in the trade in me purchasing Moselle.
So what you're telling me is you felt like you were entitled to steal from him.
No. You know what? I will tell you this, that, you know, when you're doing the things wrong that I was doing, you have all kind of ways of justifying it. And I'm not saying that makes it right by any means, because it's not. It's wrong. I've said that 100 times. But when I was doing it, and I was as addicted as I was, and the things I was doing, there's all kind of things that you know, to be able to look yourself in the mirror, you lie to yourself. And I guess self-justification for these bad things, you know, I guess is what I was doing. But, you know, Barrett had owed me so much money that when I took his money, I just didn't tell him. So it was a lie by omission.
All right. All these people on these two exhibits, these were real people that needed this money. Is that correct?
I'm sure they did.
But it was more important to you that you stole their money on top of the 40% of legal fees that you were taking.
Repetitive.
I've never asked that question.
I stole their money.
It was more important to you than their needs. Is that correct?
Objection.
Objections overruled.
I don't remember sitting down and calculating, okay, is this more important? You know, one of the self-justifications that I talked about, Mr. Waters, is, and this is one of the things, again, I want to make it clear. I don't, as I sit here today, I do not believe that any of this justifications that I'm talking about made any of this okay, because I don't. I've owned up to all this money I stole. I've tried to since I was confronted, and I continue here today. But one of the justifications at the time when I was taking pills and doing the things I was doing was,
Wait a minute. Let
ask a
me
partner,
just
okay, how
pause
much
real
is this
quick.
case worth?
Okay. So if he has owned up to all the things that he did, then why is there even a trial for the financial aspect? Why didn't he just plead guilty and hope for a semi-decent plea deal if that were the case? If you take accountability and you take responsibility, then wouldn't you plead guilty? That's the part I'm confused about, because it doesn't feel like he is, and I understand that this is not what that is about. Or this is not what the trial is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about Paul and Maggie and their murders. And but I can't help but comment on the testimony that's in front of us. And quite frankly, this is what we got. So this is what I'm going to be commenting on. But I just don't understand how he feels like this is in any way, shape, or form taking accountability if he's pled not guilty. That's my point. All right, Alec, please. Oh, wait, I got it off the wrong dadgum screen. Please continue.
And if one of my partners, and I may not even give them all the real facts, okay? So if they said this case is worth $100,000,
now it's the partners.
okay, and I go out
wrong
and I get them
advice.
$300,000, that's one of the stupid little things. Okay, well, this isn't the same. And that's one of those justifications that I used in looking back on this that I don't know how I did. But sit down and say, did I evaluate that they needed the money more than I did? I don't think I did that. I think I was selfish, and I think I just took the money.
Okay. I think I understand. I asked you a series of questions yesterday about at least relating one conversation you had with one of these clients. And I'm just going to ask you this one. Do you remember looking Tony Satterfield in the eye and lying to him?
I remember lying to Tony Satterfield, and I remember looking him in the eye on many occasions.
And lying to him?
Yeah.
Okay. Lying to his family?
I lied to his family. I don't know if it in person, but I know I had phone conversations with him where I lied to him.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the pills, if we can.
Okay.
And you've already testified, as have other people, that you were still able to function
Good
as a
morning,
lawyer over the
Jennifer.
years
Good to
despite
see you, babe.
the pills that you were using. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And
You guys, I gotta let Nestor out. I'll be right back.
you were able, of
but
course,
I'm
during this
listening in
period
the
of
chat,
time
so
to engage in
I'll
these
still
relatively
talk. Just won't be
complicated
commentary.
thefts
Be right back.
increased over the years that we've just talked about, despite the pill usage. Is that correct?
I was. I was.
All right. And you were also able to, during this time period, convince your staff that nothing was amiss with all of these exhibits, despite your pill usage.
I mean, most of those didn't require convincing my staff, but just so we're on the same page again, I acknowledge that I certainly allowed them to be misled. I certainly allowed them to do things that I shouldn't have done on my behalf, knowing that they trusted me.
How many pills were you using a day?
Depends on a number of items. Most most importantly, how strong the pill was.
Okay. Well, let's talk about, let's say start maybe in January of 2021 and move forward. Can you describe to the jury what your daily pill intake was like?
I think at that time, most of what I was purchasing was 30 milligram pills, instant release, oxycodone. That were probably mixed in with some OxyContin, which is made of oxycodone. It's just time release. I would have been taking anywhere from 1,500 milligrams maybe to maybe 1,000 or maybe 1,000 milligrams or 1,200 milligrams on a day I didn't take as much or didn't have as much, up to, I mean, there are days, many days, a lot of days, most days were more than that, and many days would be, more than 2,000 milligrams a day.
And how many pills is that?
It depends on the strength.
Well, let's say it's the
Of the
30s that you just mentioned.
If I took 30, if I had 30 milligram pills, you figure 100 pills would be 3,000 milligrams.
100?
100.
So you're taking 60 a day or something like that? I mean,
There were days where I took more than that. There were days I took less than that.
and how would you take them during the course of the day? I mean, how many are you taking at one time? How frequent in this time period, let's say January to June?
There's a point in time, and I'm not sure when it was, I think it was well before that, where, and you have to understand this. This is something that I can still remember the first time I ever took an OxyContin.
Murdaugh, can I ask you to answer my question, and I'll let you explain all you want. And my question was, how many were you taking a day during this time from January to June? Answer that first, please, and if you want to explain, I'm happy to let you do so.
I'm not positive, and here's why. It's because over the years, like as I was saying, the first one OxyContin made me sick. And that was when I was transitioning from hydrocodone to oxycodone. And it made me sick because it's a really, really, really strong one. And so, one OxyContin pill was like 10 hydrocodone pills. So, but anyway, as I took more and more, and over the years, it just, you build up a tolerance to pain pills. And so what might give me this energy, one of the reasons I became so addicted is, some people talk about pain pills and how they make them lethargic and, where they can't do anything and they feel. Opiates gave me energy. I mean, whatever I was doing, it made it more interesting. It made me want to do it longer. To go on a drive, it made driving. It just at the beginning, it made everything better. But I took so much just to keep. It got to a point where I was taking so much just to not backslide or go into withdrawals or have all those symptoms. And so it got to the point where I was taking the amounts that I came to be taking in the time period you're talking about, January to June. So it evolved over time. It wasn't like it just started then, Mr. Waters.
All right, can you just give me one example of a day during that time period?
Sure.
Did you start at 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever time you got up and take one and then one every 30 minutes? I mean,
Well, no,
I've given you a chance to explain. So
it would
now
totally
be
depend.
specific.
It would totally depend on any number of circumstances. So starting a day, one of the main things that this would depend on was how late the day before I had taken pills and how many I had taken. And did I take them during the night? Did I wake up during the night and take them? So, you know, let's just say that it had been a while since I took any and I slept and I woke up. All right. Then I would immediately, first thing, take pills, because if it's been a while, a lot of times if you slept and had pills, you were up and you could tell the beginning of those. I'm not going to say they were really withdrawals, but the agitation that you feel when you don't take it, and you could tell it. So you had to take it right away. And so I would start off, first thing I would do would take pills.
And that's how strong the withdrawals are for opiates, correct? That you feel that agitation until you can take another pill.
Yes. I mean, but that, I mean, that's just agitation's the tip of the iceberg when
Let's
it
talk about that.
comes to withdrawals, opiate withdrawals.
I think you said in your what's been played for the jury and the telephone conversation with Special Agent Kelly that, and you talked about withdrawals, just how strong they are, how you're willing to do anything to make them stop, correct?
I think what I said is almost anything.
Almost anything. Well, describe that, please.
I mean, you're sick. I mean, you're physically, you are physically sick. It's like having the flu when you ache and your joints hurt. You don't want to get up. I mean, you can't get up. And that's after a while. It starts with what you're talking about, agitation and, fidgety. Everybody talks about how fidgety I was. But it starts with that. And then it goes to, you might be sitting here and just all of a sudden sweat's running down your face, all over your body. I mean, like you ran a marathon. I mean, you literally sweat that much. The next thing that comes on after about, 12 hours is, I call it jumpy legs, but I mean, there's no way that you could sit right here in this chair. I mean, you couldn't remain sitting. I mean, you would have to get up and move around. And I mean, it's like your legs don't want to work. And that lasts for about anywhere from 18 to 24 hours. During that period, the intestinal issues come in, and I mean, you can't control yourself. You have, diarrhea, like you have food poisoning. You throw up. You're physically sick.
How many times did you try to self-detox?
Mr. Waters, dozens, if not hundreds. It's so many I can't tell you.
And those symptoms you just described are extremely powerful and made it very difficult to do that. Is that correct?
Made it difficult to
try to self-detox.
Oh, it's extremely hard.
You mentioned yesterday that you were paranoid. How long had that been going on?
Well, no, I didn't say that I was paranoid. What I said was, as the addiction evolved, there would be situations where you would have these paranoid thoughts.
And when did those first start?
Oh, okay. That's different. There is a distinction there.
I mean, how long before June of 2021?
Oh, a long
week,
time.
a month, a long time?
No. It was as my addiction got worse, I mean, it was a significant period of time, but, you know,
How often
when-
do
when-
you have these paranoid thoughts?
usually a matter of seconds. I mean, it was something, again, my whole life, you wouldn't see me where I didn't have pills on me. And that's where I kept them. I kept them on me because I was scared to put them somewhere for fear somebody would find them. So I kept them on me. So if you saw me, I had pills on me. I had a pocket full of pills on June the 8th, on June the 8th, when I was sitting in David Owen's patrol car. So I always had them on me, and I might be going to Edisto, and I turn on Hampton Street right out here, and a police car pulls out. Boom, I have paranoid thoughts. You know, it just, but I could always say, you're not doing anything wrong. He's not following you. And I could get past it in a matter of seconds.
Did anybody in your family ever see you?
Oh, I
Having these
can't
severe
imagine
withdrawals?
keeping up this facade.
Absolutely.
And who
This
did?
would be exhausting.
Mags, Paw, Bus, my dad, Randy, John Marvin. And just to be clear, Randy and John Marvin never saw me having withdrawals before September. They saw me.
And I thank you for clarifying that. Prior to June of 2021, who in your family saw you having these severe withdrawals?
Bus, Paw, Maggie, my dad.
Do you remember calling Paul a little detective?
I don't know that I ever called him a little detective, but I think Maggie did. I may have. I mean, Paul was very intuitive, so I
No,
heard
you
Miriam.
literally
I
did
heard
call him that.
I heard Miriam call him a little detective. I know Maggie used to call him that.
Did that have anything to do with the pills?
Well, yeah, it had something. Paul was always that way, but that what led him to be called a little detective. Certainly, there were times when Paul found pills.
Including just a month before the murders. Is that correct?
No, sir.
You recall 6/5/23 that was entered into evidence, which is a text from Paul to you,
I did.
which he said that.
Well, I think the
Maggie found
defense is
pills
actually
in your
saying
bag?
that all the money
Right.
is
Tell
about
me
the
about
pills.
what happened after that.
You asked me about Paul finding them, but it was Maggie that found them.
Fair enough. So it was Maggie that found them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But Paul's the one who reached out to you, correct?
On that occasion, yes, sir.
And what was the discussion after that?
I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was about that I'd had eye surgery. I don't know what day it was, but days before that, the day Maggie found them, Maggie drove me to the doctor for me to have my cataract removed, whatever they call that surgery. I can't remember, but I had a cataract taken out, outpatient. You go in for a couple hours and you come out. And it was during COVID. And so Maggie wasn't allowed to come into the doctor's office. And so she sat in the car. And I had left pills in the computer bag and sitting out there bored. I guess she started looking at my computer and found them in the computer bag. So she found those pills.
All right. And so She obviously told Paul, and Paul texted you, correct? About finding those pills
That's correct.
in May of 2021.
That's correct.
And you've heard your sister-in-law, Marion, testify that Maggie called him the little detective about the pills. You heard that testimony in this courtroom?
I did hear that.
All right. So did they start to watch you like a hawk and get on you about your pill usage during the month of May?
No,
They did not.
no, Mr. Waters, this battle that I had with addiction, it had been going on for years. And so they had been watching me like a hawk for years before May. May was just one occurrence where I let them down again.
They had been watching you like a hawk for years. Is that correct?
About my pill addiction, yes, sir. That is correct.
The nicknames are incredibly uncomfortable to listen to because it just doesn't ring.
This time in May, that wasn't the only time that Paul found pills.
He
or
doesn't
Maggie
ever
found pills.
refer
Is
to
that
them
correct?
any other time that way. Only
Now, there
just
were a number
on
of times where-
on the stand, and it's odd.
Mags found pills. Paw found pills. Bus found pills. I mean, it was an ongoing, it was just an ongoing battle for me.
And after they found those pills in May, that
Hey,
being
Truth
Maggie and
Teller.
Paul,
Good to see you.
were they trying to get you to self-detox?
No, sir, not at that point in time.
I think he's
They
going
just let
to,
it go?
Truth Teller. I
No,
think
they
it's
didn't let it
coming.
go. But at that point in time,
I'm hoping anyway.
Paul and I had already had a discussion based on, I can't remember exactly when it was, but there'd been a previous occasion a good while back where there'd been a previous occasion
And good to see you too, babe. Last night was so fun. Thank you so much
Where
for having me. Y'all got to go.
either Maggie or
and
Paul had
check
found
out,
pills. And
Truth
Paul had
Teller's
come to me
channel
and asked
and
me,
the
and
stream
I
from
told
last night,
him,
all her streams.
you know, I was back on the pills. And
Thank you, Truth Teller. I'm glad I
we
did
had had
too.
a
I'm
long
so glad
talk.
you invited me.
As I said, I don't remember exactly when it was before that. Paul and I had had a long talk. And we'd agreed, I had agreed, and I detoxed so many times. I'd been to detox. I detoxed at home with Maggie's help. I detoxed at home with doctor's help. Detoxed on my own, tried to, and it just detoxing just didn't work. It just, you could detox, but you couldn't, no, not you, I couldn't stay off of them. And so,
Without addressing the underlying behavior, the underlying issue that caused you to self-medicate. That I can
promised
understand,
Paul-
and that is true.
that as soon as we
thank
finished
you,
with his
Shmita.
criminal case,
Thank you for dropping Truth
that I would go
Teller's
to
link.
rehab. And and on this particular occasion, Paul knew that his mom worried about me so much with pills that on this particular occasion, I think that Paw convinced Maggie that I got those pills in anticipation of the eye surgery, but that I never took them, so that she would not worry that I was once again.
So you're talking about, now you're claiming that about the time in May, that Paul talked to Maggie and convinced her of that? Or are you talking about a different time?
I'm not claiming that, Mr. Waters. That's a fact. This is what happened.
All right, we're hearing that now, correct?
Hearing what now?
What you just said.
Well, you just asked me this. Mr. Waters, you keep making an issue about the first time you hearing these things. When I got arrested and I went to jail, we began reaching out to you to talk to you about all of these things, to try to tell you everything that I'd done, to give
I
you
did
all these
not know
details
that,
to help y'all go
Jane
through these
Doe.
financial things. And up until the time that y'all charged me with murdering my wife and child, you would never give Jim Griffin a response to our invitations to sit down and meet with you.
So you're telling me I never responded to Jim Griffin? Is that what you're saying here today?
I'm telling you,
Are you saying that you ever before yesterday reached out to anyone through yourself or through your attorneys and reached out to anyone in law enforcement or the prosecution and told them the story about the kennels? Are you telling me that?
what I'm telling you,
Answer my
Mr.
question
Waters,
first, please, sir. Answer my question first. Did you ever reach out to anyone in law enforcement or the prosecution and tell that story that you told this jury yesterday about the kennels before yesterday?
did I ever reach out to law enforcement to say, I want to tell you about the kennels? No, sir, I did not. What
This is the Fifth Amendment line.
Pardon?
This questioning about him volunteering information on these charges violates his Fifth Amendment rights, and we strongly object. Any more, we have to make a motion.
He brought it up.
The objection's overruled.
I mean, Mr. Griffin, while I don't the whole thing is him waiving his Fifth Amendment right. The fact of the matter is he waived it when he got up on that stand. You know it. I know it. The judge knows it. Alec knows it. He's an attorney. Stop this. He opened the door. He's the one that made the accusation that the prosecution wouldn't sit down and have a meeting with him. It came out of his mouth, not out of Waters' mouth. I mean, geez, Lou. Get your
What
life
I
right,
did
Jim.
was,
Get over there and
So,
play
yeah,
Answer my
match.
question first, sir.
You know, for the record, he did not bring it. He was talking about financial
Sit down,
stuff.
Mr. Griffin.
Who said sit down, Mr. Griffin?
Yes or no question. Before yesterday, did you ever bring up what you told this jury about that kennels to anybody in the prosecution or anybody in law enforcement?
no, I didn't have the opportunity to, Mr. Waters, because you would.
That is a lie. Right there. That is a lie. He had all of the opportunity in the world. He was interviewed 3 times by SLED. 3. He was interviewed the night of the murders. That would be June 7th. He was interviewed 3 days after that. That would be June 10th. He was interviewed 2 months after that. That would be August 11th.
Not respond to my invitations to reach out and tell you about all the things that I've done wrong, and to talk about bringing this to a head, to talk about bringing this to closure. I understand how many people I hurt. I understand how angry my partners are and how hurt they are. And I understand how hurt these people that I stole money from are. I understand how hurt they are. And one of the things that I believe is getting past this may help them get some closure. And so since at least January, I've been trying to sit down with y'all to talk to
The
y'all.
game, Chris. Oh,
Okay.
he did.
And never-
Truth teller. He says sit
never
down. Now,
ever
had it been me, I
got a
would have said,
response
sit
to the
down
multiple
and shut
requests.
your clown ass
Multiple
up.
requests.
Yes, sir. Multiple requests. I would ask about this
Mr. Murdaugh. Let's
every
let's
few
ask
weeks.
this, sir.
Sir.
Did Mark Ball ever hear your story to the jury about the kennels until yesterday? Your buddy and law partner, Mark Ball?
I haven't spoken to Mark Ball since I went to rehab.
And these were the same law partners that you were listening to the night of. Is that what you testified to this jury earlier? You testified to that earlier, did you not?
I don't understand your question.
Didn't you testify earlier that you were listening to your law partners on the night of the incident?
Yes, you did.
Was I listening to them?
Yeah, you testified to that. It's a simple question, sir.
I'm sure I was. When are you talking about?
On June 8th in the early morning hours.
mean,
You
how many
testified to
nights
this
of the
jury that you
murder
were listening to them, but
are
you never
there?
told them the Kennel story either. And they heard it for the first time yesterday as well. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that's the first time they heard it.
First time that Ronnie Crosby ever heard that would have been yesterday.
If he was listening, that would have been the first time he heard
First
it.
time John Parker ever heard that was yesterday.
Yes.
First time Danny Henderson, who was representing you in the boat case, ever heard that was yesterday.
Yes, yesterday is the first time that I have said that openly. But that's not what you were asking me, Mr. Waters, but
Okay.
you go ahead,
First time your brother Randy heard that was yesterday.
if he was listening.
Hey, Coolest Reviews. Oh, dear.
And Mr. Waters, just to be clear, I was begging for a meeting with y'all to try to bring this to a close, to talk to y'all about everything up until the time that y'all charged me with hurting Maggie and Paul. Now, after that point in time, I stopped,
Cooperation was
obviously.
on the
You
table
were
then.
begging for a meeting, and but you admit information was never conveyed that you wanted to change your story after multiple interviews with law enforcement about what happened that night, including the most important fact of all, which is when the last time you supposedly saw your wife and son alive was.
I don't know exactly what was conveyed or not because I wasn't part of it. All I know
Fair
is
enough.
what
You don't
I
know.
was trying to do was to sit down. I understood to bring all this to a close that y'all would want me to sit down and go through all of these financial things, all of these things that I'd done wrong, and to try to bring that to a close. I was repeatedly trying to sit down with y'all.
The reality is, Mr. Murdaugh, is the reason why no one's ever heard that before is because you had to sit in this courtroom and hear your family and your friends, one after the other, come in and testify that you were on that Kennel video. So you, like you've done so many times over the course of your life, had to back up and make a new story that kind of fit with the facts that can't be denied. Isn't that true, sir?
No, sir, that's not true.
Oh, okay.
You've done that over and over again over the years with all of this that we've been talking about, haven't you?
I've done what over and over again?
The second that you're confronted with facts that you can't deny, you immediately come up with a new lie. Isn't that correct?
Mr. Waters, have we established I have lied many times? I can't sit here and tell you that. What are you talking about? Facts that I can't deny? That I would disagree with that proposition that you're putting out.
Oh, sweet
That was
Jesus,
what I
this
did
is
all the
going
time. But
to hell in a
in
handbasket
doing that,
real
I
quick.
admit again that I've lied to people that trusted me.
So we can agree that the prosecution and law enforcement and so many of your friends and family
Hey, and 5, 6,
heard for
7,
the
8.
first time your story about the kennels yesterday after all these weeks of testimony. Can we agree on that?
That law enforcement, my partners,
Oh my God.
and my friends heard me say that for the first time. Yes, I agree with that.
Would you agree with me
Charlie is a great sister. You really are, Charlie.
That your own lawyer was repeating your story that you were at home napping as late as November of 22 on national television.
Oh, bless it. They're busting
I don't-
out the
I don't know.
interviews now,
You don't know
y'all.
that?
No, in jail, we don't get newspapers, and the TV we have is limited. So
So your own lawyers, at least as late as November 22, didn't know this story that you've told to this jury after 5 weeks of your family and friends coming in and saying, yeah, that's him on that video.
I don't
Objection,
know.
Your Honor, violates attorney-client privilege communication. Totally improper.
Yes, sir.
He has brought up his communications with counsel, and now that is fair game, Your Honor. His communications through counsel with, or alleged communications with the prosecution.
He didn't.
There's no attorney-client privilege to national television interviews. The objection's overruled.
Oh, dear. Now we're getting to it, you guys. This, I mean, honestly, this is what we've been waiting for. So I can't say I'm disappointed, but let's. Woo. I'm getting a little Dr. Spiegel vibes myself.
Are you waiting
Mel,
for me
Mel.
to answer,
Mhm.
Mr. Waters, or did I answer?
I think the point's made.
Yeah,
All
the
right.
point has been made.
You said you were unaware of that national television interview. Is that what you said? You were
Unaware of what national television
for fuck's
interview?
The
sake.
one where your lawyer repeated that story as late as November of 2022. Your story that you were actually home asleep at the house.
The
During
only,
8 o'clock
the
hours.
only national TV ad that I'm aware of is, not ad, program is one that Mr. Griffin was involved in, was are you referring to like a Dateline something?
Oh, sweet
I'm talking about
Jesus.
HBO.
Okay, HBO. All right, like, so yeah, I am aware of that. And what I believe the case to be is that I believe that when that was in its works, that Mr. Griffin made those statements sometime substantially before November of 22, as early as around the very beginning of 2021.
Hey, BG, good morning.
Let's
Good
talk,
to see you.
At least what I understand to be the case.
All right, let's talk some more about your testimony from yesterday. And you're telling this jury, even on something as clear as this Kennel video, that your story doesn't change when you have to make them fit the facts that no longer can be denied. Is that what you're telling this jury?
I don't understand that question. Say that again.
I said, you're
Oh,
telling
my
this
sweet
jury
Lord.
that you don't change your story to make the facts fit evidence you can no longer deny, like what's been going on in this courtroom.
I'm not telling the jury anything about that.
All right,
Okay,
good. All right, let's move on. Let's talk some more about
Please.
that issue.
let's move on.
Let's talk about the confrontation on June the 7th with Jeannie Seckinger, which you said was no big deal. Isn't that what you testified? Words to that effect?
Yes, that is what he testified.
I think what I testified to is that, to me, it certainly didn't seem like a confrontation. Jeannie came to me and was almost apologetic. And
No,
this is what I believe, Mr. Waters.
no, let me stop you right there. No, no, no. There is no way that that could possibly be your perception. Absolutely not. We all have met Jeannie Seckinger. There is no way that she came to you in an apologetic manner. Nope, don't believe it. Sorry.
Is I believe that what Jeannie Seckinger and my partners have had to go through since September has been hard. I know I could see it. I could see the
Oh,
hurt
yes, truth teller.
that I caused
noticed it.
them. And I know that they're betrayed, and I know that they're angry, and I know that they're hurt. And I want to make clear to this that while I disagree with what Jeannie said as to it being a confrontation, because I don't believe that it was. I don't think that she was lying. I think that she feels
Truth
it.
teller, do you
I
want to
think
come
that,
up?
she believes
I can
that
drop the link
that's
for
the
you, Vic.
case after
You don't
all
have
this
to, though.
time
No
that she's had to
obligation.
deal with this. But on June the 7th, when she came to
Well,
me,
anybody
she
else
was
wanna
almost
come up? You're more than
apologetic.
welcome. Let me put the
You
link
heard
in the
her
chat.
say that she said that she wouldn't be doing her job if she didn't do this. And it was made clear to me that someone had said this, that I had to make sure that income came through the firm, that I couldn't structure money. In other words, I had the impression that there was concern that maybe, like Mark Ball and Ronnie Crosby said, that maybe I was hiding fees because
No,
of
they
the
thought you were
civil
hiding
boat
assets.
case.
Let me
But
see if I
that
can,
conversation was so
summarize.
quick, Mr. Waters, that you keep using the term confrontation.
Okay, babe,
I
no
didn't take
worries.
it as a confrontation.
And you're telling this jury you're not making that issue
Y'all
fit,
know I can hold a panel down.
make your story
There's
fit
no
with those facts by
obligation.
saying, it wasn't a big deal, and Jeannie, she's hurt, so she's overreacting now.
No, that's
You
not
got
what
him
I'm
that
saying.
stand and
Gaslighting
testify.
Jeannie.
What I'm saying is exactly what I just testified to, that to me, on that day, that was not a confrontation. It ended almost as quickly as it began, and I didn't think about it again for a period of time until after everything happened.
You testified earlier, you get paranoid if a police officer turns out behind you, but you're not
There
getting
you go.
paranoid
This is what
when
we
Jeannie
needed
comes
you to
in
do,
here
Mr. Waters.
and
Press
says, I
him
need
out.
an answer about these fees,
No,
because I
because
believe you took them.
no,
No?
things like that wouldn't cause the paranoid thought and the paranoid thinking. It was always related to pills. It was always, okay, that reaction that somebody just gave me.
It was always related to pills.
Do they know something? Did something somebody said? It was, I mean, the times that's what, when I had to deal with paranoid thinking, that, if a judge confronted me in the courtroom about a piece of evidence, or if Jeannie asked me about that, those are not things that gave me paranoid thinking.
Okay. And you testified the same thing about the boat hearing on June 10th. Not worried about it. No big deal. Correct?
No, I didn't say that it was no big deal, but I said that my main concern about those motions coming up on June the 10th dealt more with the venue motion than they did with the motion to compel, I believe is what I
Are
said.
you telling this jury that you didn't testify yesterday, that you weren't concerned about it?
Please, Lord Jesus, you better.
I wasn't overly concerned about it.
Okay.
And I'm sure I had some level of concern because the venue motion was a big issue in the case.
Were you concerned enough about it to bow up on Mark Tinsley at the trial lawyers conference and say, what are you doing, Bo?
No, absolutely,
didn't happen?
unequivocally,
Okay.
never happened.
Yeah, the closed captions has not been kind to one Alec Murdaugh in this trial. They've been having him say all kinds of crazy shit.
If the Ferris fee issue comes to light on June the 7th, you're not going to be able to borrow money from Johnny Parker anymore, are you?
If the Ferris fee, hypothetically speaking, if the Ferris fee came to light on June the 7th, well, here, any point in time, if the Ferris fee came to light, Johnny Parker would not loan me money.
Okay.
If Johnny knew that I had taken fees, I would not have been able to borrow money from Johnny Parker.
You testified earlier about going to the Gamecock baseball game on the weekend prior to Monday, June the 7th, 2021, correct?
Correct.
Hold on for me real quick.
Sir?
Yes, yes, Mel, and not only that, and the thing is he, according to some of the testimony from his law partners, he didn't have work meeting etiquette either. If he was in the middle of a deposition and Paul or Maggie or Buster called or his dad called, he would take that call.
All right. I'm going to show you what's been marked as stage 572.
Oh dear,
So this
what's
trial, you
572?
got your readers with you, or your glasses, and have you, first I just want you to look through that document and then answer the question, do you generally know what that is?
Whoa.
Waters. Someone wants something, so if you'll stand for a moment, everybody stand for a moment.
Yes, let's all stand. That will help the situation. Stand. Everybody collect yourselves. Harness your chi. Yes, Charlie. A lot of them are in the courtroom. In this specific case, it's the witnesses were not sequestered, so they can be in the courtroom during the whole thing, both prior to their testimony and after. So this is an interesting bit of it. I've not ever seen it done this way before, and I'm following it intently because of that. Now, we're standing because everybody needs a moment. Shit got too deep real quick, truth teller, and we need to just, I think. And I think a
Can we
juror
come to
wanted
order?
something. Harpootlian once did say in opening statements that he wanted the jurors to take a tour of the
Please report. You got a chance to review that, Mr. Murdaugh?
Yes, sir.
crime
All
scene.
right, and do you recognize what those are generally?
I do.
And
I
what
think
are they?
everybody should
Okay,
do a
between
round of
Maggie
hokey
and I.
pokey,
And what day did they take place?
make everybody feel better.
June the 6th.
June the 6th, 2021. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
At this time, the state would offer states 572 into evidence. Objection.
To admit without objection.
All right. Tell the jury, where were you when these texts were taking place?
I was in the hotel.
And where?
I
what
was
city
in the
were you in?
Columbia, South
Hotel
Carolina.
Holiday Inn.
And where?
Uh, I'm not exactly sure where they were when they first started, but they would have been somewhere between a hotel, a restaurant, and the ball field.
All right. But when you send this text on June 6th at 11:41, you say y'all in seat already, correct?
Yes, that's what I did say.
All right. And they say, yeah, Maggie says, yes, we like these seats. Is that correct?
All right, that's correct. I didn't notice that. So at that point in time, they are in the ballpark.
All right. And then you respond, better than last night. They extended checkout to 1. Going to come then. Is that correct?
That's what that text says. Yes,
All
sir.
right. So you're back at the room. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Later on, you text after she asks you to bring a charger and says, Muggy, you text, I'm dreading it. See you in a little bit. Is that correct?
That's what I said. Yes, sir.
She responds, don't come, but then asks about the charger and says it's hot. Is that correct?
Mr. Waters, yes, I assume you were reading it exactly. So, yes, sir.
All right.
You're
She
like my
eventually
sing along
responds.
now.
Not crowded, but not
I
the
need
place
to do
to come if
something
you
to
don't
break
feel
this
well. Very
into
hot and
too
muggy. We are
much.
inside, sitting at the bar, very nice indoors. Is that correct?
That's what it says. Yes, sir.
And then you respond, "Dodgy by accident. They are making me leave, so I'll see y'all in a few." Is that correct?
That's correct.
And who was making you leave where?
It was past checkout time at the hotel.
After you'd gotten an extended checkout, correct?
It appears so.
And the reality is that you were in that hotel suffering from withdrawals when that's going on. Is that correct?
I was beginning to, yes, sir.
All right. And the reality is that your wife and your son were on you at that time period because they had found pills just a few weeks prior.
No, sir, that's not correct.
Oh,
Let's talk about June 7th, okay?
okay. This is what we came for, so let's talk about it.
You got up that morning, or what time do you think you got up and left that day?
After having the benefit of looking at all these records, I don't know what time I got up and looking at the records. Obviously, I've been up for a while, but it appears I left shortly after noon.
Okay. And you went to work?
I did, yes, sir.
And what were you working on at work?
I was working on this Dominion Energy case, was primarily what I was working on, that we had motions coming up later in that week. As I said earlier, I believed at the time that it was the biggest case that I'd ever been involved in. And there were motions coming up in that. I was preparing. Danny Henderson, my partner that was helping me with the civil case from the boat wreck, had been on me about getting a financial statement. And I finished doing that so that it could be given to Danny. It's primary, is what I remember doing. Obviously, I talked to Jeannie. But
Okay. And what time did you leave?
and I'm sure I did some other routine office things, but I can't tell you what they are.
All right. What time did you leave?
It appears that I left around a little after 6 from the records.
Okay.
I thought I'd left earlier than that, but I mean, the records seemed to be pretty clear.
All right. And you were, in fact, I think you said in many of your interviews that you were working on the boat case that day as well. Your financial declaration.
Yes, I prepared the financial declaration. I didn't do any work in this civil case. So my work in that is what I did. I prepared the financial statement, which took me a little bit of time to get the details on that. But I mean, that was the work I did in preparation for the motions coming up.
And what time did you get home?
And looking at the
Oh, yes,
records,
he
it looks
needs
like
all
I
the
got
records.
home
No,
a
Mel,
little
just like
before
he
7,
needed 5 weeks of
6:45, I think.
testimony to come clean about
6:40
the
something.
Kennel video.
Then you and Paul rode the property?
That's correct.
And you told law enforcement you shot a 22?
That's correct.
You told law enforcement that you never saw any blackout?
That I'd never seen a blackout?
At that point in time when you and Paul were riding the property?
No, I did not see a blackout.
Did you tell law enforcement that you and Paul were going around looking for hogs?
If I said that,
Go ahead.
and if I told them that, you know, you don't look for hogs in the daytime. All right. The hogs are deep in the swamp in the daytime. So I can tell you that Paul and I were not riding around looking for hogs. But what we were doing is we were going from food plot to food plot, and we were looking for hog signs. All right.
Oh,
What a hog
signs
was
of
coming out in
hogs.
root,
I
and they
see.
tear up food plots. They tear up everything. And so that was one of the things we were doing. But we were not hog hunting. We were not looking for hogs. We did not have the 300 blackout with us.
Okay. Paul didn't have the gun that blackout that he favored with him while y'all rode the property.
The gun that's in here,
Any rifle.
there was no 300 blackout with me and Paul.
All y'all had was a 22.
And that was a 22 pistol, but we didn't have that with us at that time riding the property.
Right. And you testified, you've seen the Snapchat video of you on the tree. Is that right?
I have seen that.
And you don't dispute the time of that video, do you?
I don't even know what time that was taken, but whatever the gentleman
that.
came and testified to, I don't dispute that.
All right. And what time, well, let me ask you this. When did you go back to the house?
Which
Were you
time?
with Paul or were you by yourself?
I was by myself when I went back to the house. I went back to the house basically when Maggie got there.
When Maggie got there. All right. And where had Paul gone prior to that? Was he back at the house already or he came after you?
Paul was at the shop when I went back to the house.
All right. So you beat him to the house is what you're saying. Is that right?
I beat him to the house?
Yeah. You were at the house prior to him getting there.
Yes.
All right. And you say Maggie was there at the same time or there before you or there after you?
That's what I'm not absolutely certain about. I believe that Maggie came through the kennel entrance, and going back and looking at these records and these times, I believe she came through the kennel entrance while Paul and I were at shop. But either way, I got to the house very shortly after Maggie got there.
Okay.
And I believe that she came through, and I believe that I went right behind her.
And when did you take the shower that you've been talking about to this jury?
I believe when I first went in the house. I mean, I would have talked to Maggie for a second, but I'd seen her that morning, so I would.
You left your clothes on the floor?
I'm not sure. It makes sense to me given what Blanca's said, but I couldn't tell you one way or the other.
All right. About what time was that, you think?
And looking at the records, I think that was a little after 8.
And you're saying Maggie was already there at that point?
When I got to the house,
Yeah.
yeah,
And what did you do after that?
I came back out, sat out on the couch to eat dinner.
All right. About what time was that?
A few minutes later, I mean, it didn't take me long to shower.
And you say Paul was already eating at that point?
He was.
You say he left first.
What I said is he got up and he finished eating and he left our immediate vicinity. Now, I don't believe he left at that point, given what I've looked at time records and all. I believe that he was around the house for a little bit longer.
And just to be clear, again,
But I didn't see him.
all of this detail was people were hearing for the first time yesterday, like we talked about before, correct?
Say that again?
All of this detail that we're going through right now is not anything that you related before. We're all hearing this for the first time yesterday.
Objection, Your Honor. Fifth Amendment privilege.
Objection is overruled.
So, yes, I did not tell law enforcement.
Or anybody. Here they come. The ambulances are coming because his pants are clearly on fire at this point. Just kidding. That's not a professional
Actually, I don't
observation.
think
That's
law
a petty
enforcement
one.
asked me what I did when we first went to the house, but
Oh, they did.
clearly lied to law enforcement about what
Everything?
I said yesterday.
Okay. And all of this, the last time you supposedly saw your wife and child, all of this detail, you as a lawyer and a prosecutor didn't think that was important to offer on your own?
Well, I think it's important.
You told this jury how cooperative you've been and how much information you wanted to provide, but you left out the most important parts, didn't you?
I left out that. I sure did.
You don't consider that one of the most important parts?
I think it's important.
All right, tell me about what happens next. Tell me about how Maggie and Paul end up out down at the kennels.
I'm still not absolutely certain exactly how they ended up at the kennel, but in looking at the time frames and looking at the GPS points, I think I pretty well know, because I wasn't sure if Maggie had walked to the kennels or ridden to the kennels, and I wasn't exactly sure how Paw got there, but I'm all but certain that Maggie and Paul went to the kennel together.
All right. And what was the discussion? You said that they were going down there, but you didn't want to go. Is that right?
Maggie, what I said is Maggie asked me to go to the kennels with her, and I wasn't going to go. I said, I'm not going to go.
And how long after she left did you supposedly go down there?
It was very quickly.
And what did you tell this jury and all these new facts as to the reason you changed your mind? Why'd you change your mind?
I just had a shower. When you go to the kennel, you always end up at the shop, dogs are running around, you're always going to end up doing more work. All right? It's hot. I'd already had a shower. I didn't want to go to the kennel.
Okay. Then why did you
understand that.
go is what he's
So why'd you change your
asking
mind?
you.
Because Maggie wanted me to.
So you thought about it for a few minutes and then decided to go down there?
I don't think I sat and contemplated, am I going to go? Am I going to go? I think that, like many things Maggie wanted me to do, if I didn't do it at first, I ended up doing it.
And you took the golf cart down to the kennels?
That's correct.
How long did that take to drive from the house down to the kennels in a golf cart?
You know, in looking at the records from OnStar and all of that, it seems to take about a minute in the
On a golf cart?
nope, in the Suburban. So I would think it's probably, in looking at those speeds of 20, 24 miles an hour, I would think it takes double that. I think it takes a couple minutes.
All right, so you'll concede at least a couple minutes to drive down there.
I
Is that
think-
right?
Yes,
In a golf cart?
that's correct.
When the kennel video was going on, had you arrived before that?
I believe that I had.
Okay. How long do you think you had been there before that was going on?
Not long, because when I got there, in looking at the kennel video, you can see Paw standing in the kennel. When I got there, Paw wasn't standing in the kennel.
He wasn't in the kennel anymore?
Well, he wasn't in the kennel like he is in the video.
Right.
He's probably, and I don't know exactly, but I know he wasn't in the kennel. He was like in the driveway. He was fooling with Cash. He was in the driveway, but like close to the kennel, but not in the kennel like he is in the video.
So the
Are we gonna
video
argue
happened after that,
Millimeters, what's the deal?
according to you?
Video happened after I got
After you
there.
first saw Paul? You're saying he wasn't in the kennel. When did the video happen?
I believe that to be the case.
Okay. After you had arrived. Is that correct?
Yes,
And,
very shortly after I arrived, but after I arrived.
all right. And did you tell Maggie at that time that you were going to go to Alameda?
I did not.
Did y'all discuss it at all? According to you, to these new facts you're testifying to?
I don't believe so.
He said, according to these new facts, I'm done.
Did you have any conversation with her?
Oh, yeah.
Had you had a conversation? Did you have a conversation with Paul about the dogs, about Cash's tail prior to going down there?
Prior to going down there? Did I have a conversation with Paul
Yes,
about
did you talk to
Cash?
him about Cash and some problem with his tail prior to going down there? Did you have any knowledge of that prior to going down there?
I'm not sure. As I sit here today, I don't recall that, but I don't think so.
When you first arrived in the golf cart, where did you pull up to?
I pulled up right where Maggie was.
Which is where?
She was standing in the spot where she could see in between the chicken coop and the storage room of the kennels, where the dogs were back up in those planted pines,
Hey, Tia.
behind the kennels, to the left of the chicken coop.
It's a whole damn mess, Tia. It's a
And-
whole damn mess.
What'd you do after that?
I went back to the house.
No, I mean, did you pulled up, you get out of the golf cart,
When I pulled up, I stayed on the golf cart,
and stayed on the golf cart? How long did you stay on the golf cart?
however long I was down there.
The entire time?
No, I got off to take the chicken from Bubba.
All right, so how long were you down there before you took the chicken off?
Very short time.
Like what?
Couple minutes,
And what were you doing during the couple of minutes before you got over there to deal with Bubba?
talking to Mags.
All right. And what did y'all talk about?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
No, sir. I do know that Maggie was very concerned about Paw Paw. And
Wait a minute. Wait a
You
minute.
remember a
Wait
lot
a
of
minute.
detail about all these new facts, but you don't remember what you talked about?
Let me just say this. Espera, espera, espera. Wait. You either remember or you don't remember. Don't be trying. Ugh, never mind. I can't. I'm just gonna.
I don't remember the exact details of what we talked about. I believe that at that time, we may have talked about Paw Paw, but I'm not certain.
Were you withdrawing at this time?
At this time, no, sir.
You weren't withdrawing at all.
No,
No.
he had a pocket full of pills. Remember, he said.
I mean, I would only withdraw when I didn't have pills.
And you're saying you had pills?
Yes.
Down there for a couple minutes, I think you've said now, before you get off the golf cart?
About, yes, sir.
All right. And where do you go at that point?
I take the chicken from Bubba.
All right. So you get up.
Well, I mean, Bubba's come out there with this chicken. I mean, he's showing us, hey, I caught this chicken. And I take the chicken from Bubba.
He's doing it again, truth teller. Running.
He came
Bubba's
up by the
good
golf
name
cart.
down.
He came up to Maggie and I, which I was on the golf cart. She's by the golf cart. I mean, he's not coming to the golf cart, but he's coming to us.
Is this during the Kennel video or is this after the Kennel video?
Well, no, you hear Maggie say he's got a chicken.
Okay.
That's what she's talking about is Bubba caught a chicken.
All right. All right. So is the Kennel video still going on before you go get the chicken? I mean, you've heard it, correct? You've heard it in this courtroom.
I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly, but in close timing to Bubba coming out of those woods with the chicken, I got up and took the chicken from him.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Were the dogs barking and carrying on or going out into the woods or acting like they sensed somebody was around that they didn't know?
Oh, hashtag pocket full of sunshine.
Were the dogs
Yes,
acting like there was
pocket full of
somebody around that they
sunshine,
didn't
pocket full
know?
of
Yeah,
pills,
like dogs do.
Pocket full of
No,
ideas.
No, they weren't.
There was nobody
There was no
around that the dogs didn't know.
Okay. Dogs didn't, to your indication, sense anything out of the ordinary. They were just chasing after the guinea.
There was nobody else around
All right. Good.
for them.
Now, let me say this. This is what we needed to hear. This is what he needed to elicit. This is very, very important, and I'll tell you why. Because there is such a tight gap between this kennel video which is where we hear Alec Murdaugh's voice, and the time when there ceases to be interaction on between Paul and his phone and between Maggie and her phone. It's about 4 minutes. And if he's saying that the dogs they were getting that chicken and bringing the chicken and they love the chicken and chicken, and they did not alert to anybody else being around, that is very telling, because that implies that there wasn't anybody lying in wait, waiting for an opportunity to ambush Paul and Maggie, i.e., after Mr. Alec Murdaugh left to go to his mother's. There we go.
To sense.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard the Kennel video. Would you agree with me that it lasts for about 50 seconds?
I agree with that.
So it would have ended around 8:45 and 45 seconds. Would you agree with that?
I do agree with that.
Did you have the chicken out of Bubba's mouth at the end of the Kennel video, or did it take longer than that?
You know, I can't remember exactly when in the video he came up with the chicken, but I would have had the chicken out of his mouth within 10, 15 seconds of Maggie saying he's got a chicken.
All right. And so then what did you do?
I put the chicken up.
All right. How long did that take? Did you get out of the golf cart to do that?
I did.
All right. And you had to go walk to where it was?
Well, I mean, a few feet, but I did that, yes.
All right. So how long did that take? I mean, we're at 8:46 now. How long did that take?
Seconds.
Just seconds? All right. And what did you do after that?
Got back on the golf cart.
And what did you do after that?
I left.
You left.
Now,
Just
did I
jumped
leave?
on the golf cart and left.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. Did I get on the golf cart and leave that second? Probably not. But did I get on the golf cart and leave very quickly after that? I did.
Okay. Yeah. I think you testified yesterday. I got out of there.
I did.
Why'd you get out of there so quick, Mr. Murdaugh?
Because it was chaotic, it was hot, and I was getting ready to do exactly what I didn't want to do.
You were getting ready to do what you didn't want to do.
What's
That's
that?
correct.
Yeah.
I was getting ready to sweat. I was getting ready to work. I went back to the air conditioner.
So did you say goodbye, according to your new story?
Oh, damn.
Did I say goodbye?
That's what he said.
Did you talk to them at all, or did you just get the chicken, put it on there, jump on there, and just take off?
I wouldn't have just gone off. I mean, I would have said, I'm leaving.
Okay.
Did I say goodbye or bye?
And again, go ahead.
I mean, there would have been some, there would have been some exchange. I'm not staying here.
rude.
Well,
I
what
got
was that exchange? I mean,
manners.
you've had such a photographic memory about these new stories. What happened here?
It's not, I can't tell you the exact words.
You don't remember
You don't remember
your
what
conversation
would have been
after you
your
put that
last
chicken up.
words?
Did y'all talk about the chicken?
No, I don't think we did.
Did you talk with Paul about Cash's tail?
After the chicken?
Yeah.
No, I know I didn't do that.
Did you tell Maggie I'm going to go check on him?
At that point, no, I don't
Did you
think
tell
I did.
Maggie, it's hot out here, think I'll go back?
I certainly would have said something to that effect.
All right.
All right. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay.
Unlike everything else with the new story, you just can't recall what that would have been.
Well, I mean, you're making that categorization. I think there's other things about that I can't remember. But if the question is, can I remember exactly what words I used when I gave Maggie some
Farewell.
salutation when I'm leaving, I can't tell you what those were.
Okay.
But it would have been something to the effect of, I'm leaving.
Okay. But you would concede that there was at least some conversation, that you wouldn't have just put the chicken on there and ran back to the golf cart and taken off. Correct?
Without talking to Maggie, I would have never done that.
All right.
No, that's rude, and I'm not rude.
So what's, you want to say a minute? Does that sound about right?
A minute for what?
To have just whatever interaction it took for you to then,
Depart.
according to your new story, drop back to.
No, sir. It wouldn't have taken me a minute. It would
Not
have
a minute.
been, it would have been, I'm leaving. I'll see you in a minute.
Okay. So 30 seconds?
I'm leaving. I'll see you
I
in
don't
a
think it would have
minute.
taken
Even
30
though you were
seconds, but
leaving to
I
go
mean,
to
I'm
your
fine with you
mom's?
using
What?
whatever time you want to apply, but I don't
I'm
think it
just
would have
asking
taken that
about
long.
real life here and how people interact with one another, Mr. Murdaugh. I mean, so what you're telling this jury, I call you're fuzzy on these kind of details, is that you jetted down there, you dealt with the chicken and jetted right back.
No, no, sir. No, sir. I didn't jet down there and I didn't jet back.
Are they
I
just
got
gonna
up after
ignore that
Maggie
you
asked me to leave.
objected?
After Maggie asked me to go with her, and I didn't. I got up. I went and got on a golf cart. I drove down there.
Okay.
I did what I did. I said, I'm leaving or something to those words, and I went back.
All right. Well, if it's about 8:46, if the Kennel video ends at 8:45 and 45 seconds, and it's about 8:46, we at least concede that maybe it was about a minute before you got on that golf cart and headed back. Just reasonable real life.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it was that long, but maybe, sure.
All right. So,
But I don't think it was that long. I mean,
all right, well, how long
exactly
do you think it
what I
was,
thought
Mr.
was going to be
Murdaugh?
going on at that kennel, why I didn't want to go there to begin with, is exactly what was going on.
Yeah. Well, I get that.
And I left.
Are these also convenient facts in your new story that have to fit with the timeline now that that evidence has been thrown in your face?
No, sir.
Does that sound like real life to you that you jet down there and jet back, Mr. Murdaugh?
Mr. Waters, as I just told you, I didn't get on my golf cart and jet down there. I didn't jet back.
The
Those are
reason
your-
why you have to be
Hang
so
on now,
fuzzy
Mr.
about
Waters.
these
Just a second.
details.
Mr. Waters, hang on.
Just answer before another question is presented.
Yes, sir.
I'm
Just a
answering your
moment.
question.
Just a moment. Are you responding to the last question?
Yes, sir. I'm responding to your question, and you're using words that I'm not using. And that's your
Do you agree
categorization.
I'm entitled to ask my questions to you, sir?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm going to answer them. All I'm saying is I'm taking issue with the manner in which you're changing what I'm saying.
So you
And
disagree this is a new story? You disagree with that characterization?
yes, this is the first time that this is being told openly.
And you disagree to my characterization that you've got a photographic memory about the details that have to fit now that you know these facts, but you're fuzzy on the other stuff that complicates that. You disagree with that?
I do disagree with that. I think that I have a good memory about a lot of things on this.
How about this? We got the Kennel video ending at 8:45:45. So just to take care of the chicken, put it up. I was going to say 8:47, but somewhere around there. I think you said somewhere around there. Is that fair? Just to do whatever you need to do and get on that cart before you head back
The Kennel video ended at 8:45,
in 45 seconds.
8:46. It certainly could have been 8:47 before I left out of there.
Okay.
I think it was sooner than that, but it could have been.
All right. That's 60 seconds and 75 seconds, correct? After it ends.
If it ends at 8:45 and 45 seconds, it's a minute and 15 seconds.
You characterized it yesterday as I got out of there, right?
That is exactly what I did.
So if we're at 8:47, I think you said, giving you the benefit of the doubt, it's 2 minutes to get up back to the house, correct?
Approximately.
And when you got back to the house, where'd you park the golf cart?
Same place I'd gotten it from.
He does need to
Where
calm
Mark
that
Ball
down a little bit.
testified
I
that it
agree
was.
with you, truth teller.
And what door did you go in?
You're getting pressed,
I
Waters.
would
Calm
have gone in the
down.
front door.
You're doing good, but you got to
And if you left
chill out a little bit.
around 8:47,
He does have strong
and it
feelings
took about
about
2
not
minutes
sweating.
to get up to the house,
You are correct.
what time would that make it, Mr. Murdaugh?
If I left at 8:47, and if it took me 2 minutes, that would make it 8:49.
8:49. When you testified, you went inside and the TV's on, right?
I did go inside, and the TV was on.
Okay. And you laid down Is that right?
I did.
All right. Before you said you'd been napping for an hour or so, or napping that entire time, but now you laid down on the couch.
That's correct.
All right. And maybe dozed for a second,
Maybe.
according to your new story. How long did you doze?
If I dozed, extremely short time.
Extremely short time? Because you would agree with me that at 9:02, you're up and moving, according to the data.
I agree that according to that data, my phone's recording steps at whatever time it is, 9:02 something.
How long did it take you, if you're at the house at 8:49, how long before you went and laid on the couch?
I would have gone straight to the couch, probably. I may have gone by the sink, or I may have gotten a spit cup, but it would have been basically straight to the couch.
Missing out of the
Straight to the
timeline.
couch?
Yes, sir.
Any
you're telling
time he
this
needs to
jury
go
that
potty. When are you going
That's
potty,
what happened,
sir?
and
I'm
you were back
worried
at the
about
house at
your
8:49, and you lay down on the couch and dozed for a second, and then you were up with
I'll be
more
right back.
steps in a shorter time period than you had done all day.
Well, I mean, your number is 8:49. What I'm telling this jury is that I went down there, and when I took that chicken from Bubba, I would have said something to Mags. I got back on that golf cart, and I drove back to my house. After getting back to my house, I went inside, and in short order, I went to the couch. That's what I'm telling this jury.
Did you go anywhere else in the house?
Mr. Waters, I can't tell you specifically about that. I don't think so, but I may have.
Did you have that tan blackout and a 12-gauge shotgun on that golf cart when you drove down there?
No,
You did?
no,
Did you see them when you were down there?
no.
No. So we got you back around 8:49, and you're leaving at 9:02, correct? And you didn't see any weapons down there. You just happened to be back there. You didn't hear anything at all. Did you hear anything at all, Mr. Murdaugh, during that time period?
No, I did not.
You didn't? Didn't you tell law enforcement that you thought you heard them pull up? Didn't you tell law enforcement that?
I did think they had pulled up.
All right. So that was that. You did think that?
Yes.
All right. So now you're saying there was a car pulling up?
No,
You didn't testify to that yesterday, did you, in your new version of events that
no, I don't,
construct?
Mr. Waters, I don't believe there was a car pulling up.
Okay. But that's what you told law enforcement, didn't you?
No, I told law enforcement that I thought they had pulled up.
All right. But you're saying you couldn't hear blackout shots supposedly, but you could hear that, correct?
I didn't say I couldn't hear blackout shots, but I'm saying that I thought when I got up from taking a nap, if I took a nap, but when I got up from laying down, as I was getting ready to go to my mom's, there was a point in time where I thought Maggie and Paul had come back.
You also told them that you thought you heard a wildcat, but maybe it was a person or something like that as well.
No, that's not what I said.
What did you say then?
I said when I went outside that there's a house cat that's gone wild, and he hangs around. He goes from hanging around the shop, goes from hanging around the house, different times. You might, and there'll be times you don't see him. And he had been around the house. And when I went outside, I believe that cat was over there.
Okay. And you made a point of mentioning
I
that
never-
to law enforcement.
I never thought it was a person.
All right. But you made a point of mentioning that to law enforcement, correct?
In the course of discussing it, I did tell them that.
But you never told them all this new story that you've constructed in light of this trial. Is that correct?
I did not tell them that I went to the kennel. I lied about that.
And at the same time, you also looked at this jury and tried to tell them that you had been cooperative in this investigation.
Other than lying to them about going to the kennel, I was cooperative in every aspect of this investigation.
Very cooperative, except for maybe the most important fact of all, that you were at the murder scene with the victims just minutes before they died. Right?
I did not tell them that I went to the kennel.
We'll take a break at this time for about 15 minutes, talking to the jury. Please go to the jury room. Please not discuss the case. Step down. Please do not discuss your testimony with anyone during the break. We'll be in recess for 15 minutes.
Tell a true story is similar to a drunk getting out of a car on the freeway and explaining why they can't walk straight. And I don't know the impact that the impact on the jury associated with his drug addiction, but I just think this is the elephant in the living room. So I agree with you. I mean, the prosecutor's been effective.
Well, here's the thing, Rich, and this is the thing I'll respond to. The times. He's on that kennel video at 8:45. The data suggests he's moving, as you heard, at 9:02. Whatever he remembers or doesn't remember, what he says he doesn't say, he's now not denying that that's him, and everybody said it's him. So now it places him in this kind of limited time frame, because the other suggestion would be someone was waiting for him to leave to kill Paul and Maggie. Why they didn't want to kill him would be a separate question. And he just said, he didn't hear anybody around there. Now, again, taking aside whether he doesn't remember details, he doesn't, it's the data that I think is going to be critical here.
Right. The two most important pieces of evidence for the prosecution in this trial are, number one, now admitted that Alec Murdaugh lied about his whereabouts on the night of the murder, lied about being at the kennels. Number two, the timeline. The timeline has been in the benefit of the prosecution from the beginning. Towards the end of the prosecution's case, they really ramped it up. And Creighton Waters is killing Alec Murdaugh right now on the timeline because it doesn't make any sense. He says he was down there at 8:45. There was nobody else around, he says. The dogs weren't acting weird. There was nobody else. He got on a golf cart. He went back. He didn't lie down on the couch and go to sleep. He didn't have any time to. He got back up. We're going to hear that he shortly left to his mother's, but he didn't hear anything. He didn't hear any shots. It doesn't make any sense that he could have gotten to the kennels, out of the kennels, back to the property and off the property in that tight a timeline without seeing any of what happened. The mysterious 5'2" assassins that they now say were running around the property.
And Jamie, look, the point I think that is strong here, that if he had never lied, so if he said, yeah, I was down with them at the kennels, and then the video comes out and confirms what he said, that he was down there, but then left, this would have been a very different story. I think if you look at that and say he never lied, but the prosecution still doesn't have the murder weapon, they don't have the kind of forensics, they don't have an eyewitness, they have the two different guns, they have all these different suggestions, this would have been a very different case. It seems it's Alec Murdaugh's own words that are the worst thing against him in this case.
Jesse and Richard, listen, I'm playing devil's advocate here to some degree. Clearly the prosecutors have brought a case that is reliable and has some sustenance. What I'm suggesting to you, and Jesse, you just touched on this, we have two different murder weapons. Neither one of them have been recovered. And they're clearly, it's if we're going to speculate, let's speculate. There was this issue going on with the young woman who died, unfortunately and very tragically. And, people that were very sincere about trying to hold people accountable for that death. So again, guys, I'm not, I'm playing devil's advocate right now, but what I suggest to you is that we have a drug addict who is under extreme stress. We have no murder weapon. We have
Yeah.
really no motive. And they've I wouldn't say they've created a motive. That the motive is supposedly he wanted to distract from his own situation. What I would suggest to you is, father, and I don't know if you guys are, that's a reach for me.
So I agree with you. Unfortunately, the job that I have, I see family members killing family members in brutal fashion. And sometimes the victims are much younger than the ones we have here. And so nothing really would shock me. I guess, Rich, the thing that I'm wondering now is, what does Jim Griffin do?
Okay.
The opportunity
so,
to redirect, maybe later today, because you have a client who's admitted to lying. You have a client who's admitted to stealing.
He's very uptight about this, about sweating. He is very, very anti-sweating.
Because yesterday,
Which is
when he came
ironic,
emotional,
because when you're on opiates, they make you sweat.
Back to that on redirect.
So for somebody who's so anti-sweating, he sure does gobble up the
and his son
one medication that will make you sweat more than CNC Music Factory. But I'm bummed.
By the way, I think
I had a whole other the duck pond. So the at that point, at that time of year, what they were doing is filling in the duck pond. So the duck pond would have been covered over at that point, and then they would redig it up, fill it for the duck season, which I think is like fall, winter. But I can't be sure about that because I'm not a hunter. Yeah, he thinks he's, well, I don't know if he quite thinks he's Prince Andrew, because Prince Andrew can't sweat. Remember, he has no sweat glands. And Alec admits that he sweats, he just doesn't like it. So it's a little sort of in the same neighborhood. Yeah, you missed a lot, Corky Babe, because now Waters is going in on this timeline of Alec Murdaugh's, and it ain't looking good. He's got him on the ropes. I will say this: Alec is definitely bobbing and weaving, but I would say that this match is probably as exciting. This boxing match is probably as exciting as the Thriller in Manila. Thriller in Manila. There we go. Sorry. Yeah. This is the important stuff. This is what he wanted to get him nailed down on. This is what the jury wants to hear. This is what we want to hear. And didn't nap. I mean, this is what I would say. But he can't really say this now because they went into the pills, and for him, the oxy gives him energy. So he can't say, I took a ton of pills and I might have nodded out for a minute or 2 or 10. I can't be sure about that. Like that would have been, but now he can't go back. Now he can't say that. Who dis? Oh, Mel. Can you show me your profile? Oh, look at her. So pretty. Here we go.
Hey, Boo.
Hey, Boo. What's up?
Nothing much. I just thought I'd come up while the Be Right Back sign is up and say, how you doing?
How are you doing? Ain't this some shit?
This guy is a fucking nutcase. Sorry for my language.
We love it.
I've been like this the whole time. My eyes are literally rolling back in my head.
I'm with you. My eyes have rolled so hard, I'm reasonably sure I saw both the cat's and the dog's brains.
And you could get cast in The Walking Dead.
Huh?
And you could be cast in The Walking Dead.
I could be. I could.
He never legit never says yes or no. It's like,
no.
I took a nap, but I might not have taken a nap.
I mean, right. And I have to say this. Now, I know that opiates cause constipation. Okay, we all know it. But what he doesn't talk about is any potty breaks. Like I had to pee. When are you going potty in all this timeline?
He's a dude. He can pee on anything. He could pee while he's whizzing with his golf
But he never
cart.
says he's taken a leak or he's gone to the bathroom or anything. The only human like bathroom talk we've had is the shower. And let me just say this for the record.
He peed in the shower.
Maybe he did pee in the shower, but you know
He
what
peed
else?
in the shower. He is a stage 10 shower peer. I can see it.
I would agree with that because of the fact that he leaves wet towels on the floor. Now, what kind of
Son of a
heathen
bitch
ass does that? He should face
Not
jail
even my
time for that
12-year-old.
alone, frankly.
14-year-old.
Leaving towels on the floor.
You know what? I would have taken him out just for that.
Okay, that's a 12 and a 14-year-old whole grown up who has graduated high school, gone to college, graduated college, got his Juris Doctorate, took the bar exam, and is practicing law. He ought to know damn better than to put wet towels on the floor. It's bad for the floor
Or
and it's
pee
bad
in
for
the shower.
towels.
That's disgusting. That just creates mold.
Correct. It's
and did he buy those qualifications?
Correct, and not.
Are they back?
I don't know.
So we're ready to jump live once again into Walterboro, South Carolina for the continuation.
Well, sort of. I do think that he pees in the shower because he uses the Kleenex that he blew his whole nose into to wipe his face after he's blown his nose. So he basically is just wiping his face with snot.
What's with the sniffing? Is he on coke before he goes in there, or has he got allergies?
This was him under cross.
I can't quite figure it out because it's not only does he sniff, but he swallows.
I believe
he's a snot swallower.
I don't think you had been there before that was going on.
At this point, if Alec went for autopsy, he would be full of Tic Tacs and snot and lies.
Oh, sweet Jesus, that's disgusting. Oh, my stomach just flipped.
It's foul. It's disgusting. He's nasty. And he's in front of God and everybody. And yesterday when he was crying up on the stand, I think it was that lawyer, one of the law channels slowed down the snot and he blew it out of his nose. It didn't just come out naturally, it was forced. It was a staged snot rocket.
Oh my God, my grandkids do that. I'm triggered.
Video happened after that?
I know.
I thought you were going to
This
say
thing is
that
triggering.
it was coming out and then he sucked it back in and swallowed it.
I believe that to be the case.
No, he allowed it to leak on that, to drip on that very he's wearing.
Who else did I saw
Maggie at that time.
Michelle do that.
I did not.
Did y'all discuss it at all?
Not to talk drama, but did you see that clip? Did you see her?
No.
Michelle goes live, the MGL one.
I don't know who she is.
Oh,
no, I haven't. I don't know who
Bless
that
you.
is.
Bless you for
God.
being the only person in the world who doesn't know who she
take a
is.
gander?
Oh, jeez. She was.
Can't have. I
I'm sure it was
probably
here.
wouldn't if not for this trial. This trial has
about cash and some problem with his tail.
You've been busy because I can hear you know all the
she blew a
things.
snot
You're
rocket?
very up to date on it all, you know.
Sure. As I sit here today, I don't recall.
I
that,
have
but
to be. This
Oh,
trial
yeah, because I
sent me
was
in a
going to
way
say that as well.
I don't-
Yeah.
I-
It's always good when you are up to date, when you're doing streams about it.
Yeah, since
That would be
well,
like me
right,
going
you
into
should
my
pretty much.
kitchen
You
not
should
knowing how to
probably
cook.
know some things about what you're talking about. I love your
Fake it
cooking
till
videos.
you make it, girlfriend.
I love them. When are we going to get another something from motherfucking Lynette? You know, she's my fave.
Oh,
I think falling
look at
on your
this.
sword is more told than they have been. I think he's been again. Just,
I need that shirt in my life.
Clearly,
I love
Hold
my
on,
fucking
hold on.
Lynette.
She's,
She's
but I
okay.
think falling on your sword to more of a degree.
Casey,
I really
let me
say
make it a solo outfit. Let me make solo.
This guy is a legendary.
The back has this and not sorry.
Right, and I think that
But I did my food shopping with this today. Hold on, I'll show you the
I'm
back.
glad you did. If I had that shirt, I would do everything in it.
I know exactly what happened here. Relying on some sort of excuse that you were intoxicated and you were going through this.
See, I shaved my head.
They're inconsistent. And
I see. I love it.
Okay,
It's
so Rich, I have a
adorable.
video because one of the things
It's
that
nice
we
and
talked
cool,
about it-
and it'll probably be pink next week.
Alec Murdaugh seemed to suggest was
Oh, I
his
love
life
it.
wasn't about to be
I absolutely love
exposed on
it.
June 7th,
God,
2021. There
I
wasn't
literally
this
got up,
danger
sat
that
down, got up, and got down.
automatically knew about
I
his
feel like I've been doing
profile
aerobics for a
way
freaking hour.
before that. So it wasn't like he was trying to cover anything up. There would be no reason
Think about how
for him
the
to
audience
cover
and the
it.
jury and
You know, that
everybody
could
in
be a
that
struggle for
courtroom
the jurors
feels, you know,
as well.
just
As
getting
to
up,
why he
standing
would
up,
do this.
you know,
What do you think about that?
fighting for your right.
Yeah.
I honestly could not sit there and God, listen to him dribble.
And that he had severe financial
I couldn't be a
problems,
jury
and
on
knew
this.
many people
I
were
can't even
struggling
act right
to
on a live stream. You think I could act
shoot
right
your son in the
and be
foot.
serious? Listen to
That's
this.
why everyone
I
loves you.
couldn't. I couldn't do. I don't think I could do it. I would love to be a jury, but I don't think I could do it.
Yesterday, the
Yeah,
reason he lied
I
I think
couldn't.
I'd have an outburst.
about the Kennel video
I
Yeah,
really
I
do.
would.
because he was afraid of law
Oh,
enforcement.
This
you'd
is
be like,
the
hold
most
up, wait a minute.
cockamamie,
Law enforcement,
ass
worked in law enforcement,
backwards
families worked in law enforcement for
bullshit.
decades. But putting that
Mm.
aside, he's got
Mm-hmm.
extreme paranoia, and that is why
See,
he
now, if this
lied
were
about
Florida,
Kennel.
which is where I live,
So
did you know that the jurors are allowed to ask questions? Now, I don't think they're allowed to ask
plus
questions
financial catastrophe, plus
all the time, like the whole,
paranoia
I mean, I think they have to be
equals motive.
submitted
That's
and then that they can
one
be
move that
asked.
might carry
But
the
they
day.
can't like just stand
You
up
might
in
be
their
right. You might
seats
be
and
right,
be
and
like,
I'll tell you,
because if it
one
were
thing
me,
that
you know, it would be me.
they
Back, wait,
Didn't they do that at the-
back the milk truck up. What did you say?
That he was going to be questioned about the financial crimes and that
Didn't they have
Mm.
questions at the
exposing
end of
himself
the
to
Amber Heard one?
liability, maybe now a lot more than that. I can't imagine him taking
They
that
did during
all the charges
deliberations,
to their
yes,
faces after what he admitted in open court.
if I'm remembering correctly.
That was a fun one.
The client wants to do versus
It
what the
was.
attorney's
I
rather
haven't been
want
this
to do.
invest. I haven't been invested in a trial since
Again,
the Johnny Depp Amber
attorneys
Heard.
are their own worst client.
Yeah.
I suspect that he was.
I understand
warned
that.
at
I don't. I mean, I was
the
invested
record
in the
and
Wagner
probably
trial,
on the
but I
record
don't
to the
not
extent that we
as
weren't able to see this.
invested as I am in this trial, and I don't know
In
what
the
it
what
is
trial?
about this
Throw this out
specific trial, the Wagner trial.
Conceding that
Oh, God,
he had
The
I thought you said wanker.
problems in his personal life.
No, I wish
You
it
know,
could.
does
Well,
it
there was that
open
trial
him up
too.
for
That would
some
have been
level of
the
sympathy when
Mark
we're
Jensen
looking at
trial, where
whether
the
or
word
not,
penis
again,
was
penis?
mentioned
Yeah.
over 100
shooting your
times.
son in the
Mhm.
face?
I think I saw
Yeah.
Tori
Just in the
I think that the alternative is
She
to
did.
do
stay
something about
silent.
that.
She did.
Yeah.
She and I
Ultimately,
talked
what
about
the
it,
record
and I
recommended
mean,
that he do, but the
how
alternative
can
is to
how
stay
can you go
silent,
wrong
and the
when
jury has
the
to
word
kind of
penis is
sort
mentioned
through
100 times,
this
over
somewhat
100 times in just
I
the
don't wanna say ambiguous,
appeals
but this theory of the
paperwork,
It's
prosecuting
asking to be
attorney.
picked
the appeals
apart,
You
answer.
know, so
not the
Correct.
penis,
both ways.
the
Begging for
actual
I think when we
proceeding.
begging
look at the
for it.
standard, when we look at the
Correct.
burden of proof,
Mm.
I think the prosecutor
Is
is a
it, are they
little
having a
privileged
morning
here.
break or are they
You know,
just
it only
standing?
takes one, and
They're
I
having a
have
morning
not
break
heard
right now.
any
Right.
evidence to
I'm having
give
snacks
me
too.
to
I've got
beyond
grapes.
reasonable doubt. There's an extraordinary circumstantial
Ooh,
hill
They're,
delicious.
that's been
they're
created
huge.
and it's been
They are
articulated by the
huge.
prosecuting attorney. But
Listen, listen.
Much like,
two guns, Jesse, two guns.
So look,
oh, and they're
So fresh.
crisp.
I'm struggling with this case
Oh,
every day, Rich.
sounds so
I struggle
good.
with it because I look
Those
at
grapes
it and
are
I
as
say
big as the
record,
audacity that
police
Alec
work
is walking
was
around thinking he's going to get away with this bullshit story.
There are these deficits.
I honestly can't believe there are people that believe him. How? If no one else was, if he thought no one else was there, who does he think did it? Because I don't know all the ins and outs of
Correct.
this.
Really hard to get past.
But
Well, see, the problem with that, okay, first of all, it's a big property. It's like 1,700 acres or some such shit, which don't ask me how big that is because that's measurements and that has geometry in it, and I'm not real great with that. But,
some
they're
big
back.
shit is.
But I'll
Okay,
say
okay, bye.
this.
Yep.
Right, it's huge. But I'll just say this before they start, because it'll be a second. the deal is that there's a very small window of time between when Paul and Maggie's phones are locked
Exactly.
and never to be opened again. It's like 4 minutes.
Yep.
And
And how far is the
where
dog kennel from the
was this
house?
person
Doing in the
lingering?
courtroom that there's be no reaction to the testimony.
Couple of hundred yards, I
jeers,
think.
Cheers.
2
That
seconds.
lazy fuck had to get on a golf
car
cart.
ride.
Jesus. All right.
Anyone.
Okay, I'm going. I'm
He
bye,
did.
bye, bye, bye.
He did. He doesn't like to sweat. All right, bye.
Bring the jury.
Love ya.
There will be an opportunity to put something on the record. If it's regarding an objection, it can be done later.
Yes, sir.
I just want to take this opportunity to thank you guys all for being here with me, supporting me, and I'm glad that we all got to watch this train wreck as a family. It means a lot to me. You would think that, Mel. I don't understand the security camera not having at least a dadgum ring doorbell, for Pete's sake, something.
Jury is present, sir.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Oh,
When you picked up that chicken, was there any blood on it?
I don't believe so.
Did you wash your hands or all?
At that point in time, I don't believe that I did.
When you say you were there, you said Maggie was nearby you. Is that correct?
Right by me.
Was she messing with the hose at all?
At that time, no, she was not.
Did she mess?
Can I just say this? There is a reason that chickens, turkeys, ducks, they're called fowl. You should be washing your hands after you handle them. I'm just saying.
With it the entire time that you were there, according to your new facts today.
While I was there, she did not touch. She was not fooling with a hose at all.
Ever?
I'm gonna move this thing along.
Mel, it is a safe place, babe. And I appreciate you sharing those little 3 hairs.
I'm gonna put up on the screen states 519, which is the condensed timeline. If I could have computer input, please.
Oh, sweet Jesus, he's putting up a visual aid. We did hear the hose during the Kennel video, Jenny. I believe that very strongly, and the guy that was in charge of taking care of the dogs said that that is not the way that he put that hose up. That hose had been used and put away wrong by somebody else after he left that day at about 3:34, somewhere in there.
You see that up there, Mr. Murdaugh?
Yes.
All right, I'm on page 5. You see that cell tower?
You do not look like Hank for me, myself, and Irene.
That's up on my screen.
Yeah.
I do see that.
I'd also like to know why Alec answers a question.
Do you agree with me that
question.
it reflects no cell tower activity on your phone from 6:52 to 9:04?
I do agree with that.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Murdaugh. Did you take your phone with you down to the kennels, according to the new facts that you testified to yesterday and today?
I must not have.
You must not have.
If this is accurate, no, sir.
Is that typical for you?
Sure it is.
It's
Absolutely.
typical. Okay. Tell me why that's typical.
If and when I'm going, now, it would be unusual if I was going out for any extended period of time, or if I was going, even on the property, if I was going somewhere for an extended period of time, I would usually have my phone. But for me to go knowing that I'm going to the kennel and coming right back, that's not unusual at all. I mean, you've heard the testimony about the service out there. The service is terrible. You have to be in a particular spot.
All right.
And you have to find a spot.
So the answer is you don't know whether or not you took it down there
And I believe that I probably didn't based on this data.
based on this, but unlike your photographic memory about other things, you don't remember whether or not you had your phone on.
I
Mr.
did
Porter,
know you're a
I've
fan.
never claimed to have a
Sure, for sure.
photographic memory, but I do not specifically remember if I had my phone that night. I do not dispute it based on this data, and that's not unusual for me.
Just like you don't remember, according to your new story, the last conversation you had with Maggie.
No, I remember having my last conversation with Maggie.
The Poot is only watching right now.
Looking at
because
this
he's waiting
screen,
for
you
his
have,
500 pill in Matchington.
The map up there, we're on page 6, and it shows you arriving back at Moselle at 6:42. You don't dispute that now, is that correct?
No, that's what this data appears to show.
And looking at the data, moving on to page 7, you have Paul arriving about 7:04. Is that correct? You don't have any reason to dispute that?
Well, that's what it says. He arrives at 4147 Moselle Road, which is the address of the shop. The house is 4157. I believe that Paul actually got there a little bit before that, but I think that's approximately accurate. I think Paul got there a little bit closer to 7 o'clock.
But you admit your memory.
You would
is
agree that
spotty.
that's the earliest data point that reflects his presence in Moselle?
If that's what the records show.
You don't dispute that?
I don't dispute that if that's the earliest data point. But again, I believe he got there a little bit earlier. And I tried to look at these records to see if if that could be refuted. And I believe he got there a little closer to 7 or a little bit before 7.
No, that's a good point. You looked at these records a lot before you had your testimony yesterday and today,
Oh,
didn't you,
sweet
Mr. Murdaugh?
Jesus.
I've looked at these records other than the OnStar records that just came when they were provided to me. Sure, I've looked at them.
Right here, we have some steps on your phone, 29 steps. And then down at the bottom, we have 89 steps. Is that consistent when you and Paul were together on the property?
I mean, sure, we would go to different locations on the property. Sometimes we would get out, sometimes we wouldn't. We'd get out and walk around. We'd look at stuff. We'd do things. For example, you saw me messing with the tree. There'd be other ones. We may get out and look at a feeder. Maybe other ones we get out and look at hog signs where hogs are rooting. So it would be perfectly consistent with what Paul and I were doing that day.
And 8:05 to 8:09, would you agree that that's the last steps recorded on your phone before 9:02 when you become a very busy bee?
A very busy.
If that's what these
B&B.
records show, I see I took steps, these records show I took steps between 8:05 and 8:09.
So would you concede then that you're at the house around 8:09?
I would have thought so, yes.
Okay. And you said Paul was already back at that point?
No, I said just the opposite.
When did he get there?
All right. You talking about when I left the shop and went to the house when Maggie was there?
Yes, before you ate dinner.
No, as I said earlier, Paul and I were at the shop. Maggie got home. I left Paul at the shop and I went to the house. I think you were saying that I said I met Paul at the house, and that's incorrect.
Paul was still down at the shop when you were at the house, correct?
When I first went to the house, Paul was still at the shop, I believe.
All right, and was Maggie there when you arrived at the house?
Yes, I believe she was.
All right, and 809 is the last steps that you have on this phone before 902, correct?
That's what the data shows.
Looking now at page 15. I'm sorry, page 14. Your steps that you say when you got to the house is 809 and Paul was still down at the shop. But don't these records reflect that Paul is pinging with GPS data at the house at 808?
This record appears to show Paul at the house at 8:08.
All right. So those records don't fit with your new story that you testified yesterday and today. Is that correct?
No, I don't believe even right now, Mr. Waters, that that's right. I'm not saying what you're doing is you're taking 809 and saying that I'm at the house. And I mean, that may or may not be right. But what I'm saying is that when Maggie came through, I left, and I believe that Paul stayed at the shop. Now, did Paul come right behind me? I'm not sure, but when I left him, I believe that when I left to go to the house, I believe that Paul stayed at the shop for a minute.
When you got to the house, did you put your phone down?
I'm sure I did.
Did you put it in the car, in the Suburban?
Did I put it in the Suburban?
When you got back to the house, did you put it in the Suburban? Was the Suburban parked out front?
The Suburban would have been parked wherever I parked it.
Where did you park it?
Which is where?
I believe on the side.
Okay. And did you put your phone in the Suburban?
At that time? No, I did not.
Where'd you put it?
I'm not sure where I put it.
You're not sure about that either, huh?
No, I'm not sure. When I went in the house, I'm not sure where I put my phone. I would think that I put it down somewhere, probably by the couch.
Didn't you testify yesterday when you were being asked by your lawyer about that pause at Alameda when you were leaving, and you had a very specific recollection of your phone had fallen down in the crevice and you had to pick it up and get it out? You remember testifying to that?
I do.
But you don't remember what you did with your phone when you got back at this point, huh?
I mean, Mr. Ward, those are two distinct, different things. I'm coming in the house and I put my phone down. I don't have a routine spot that I put it in right on this corner or right there. You know, yeah. I would assume that when I went in the house, I put it somewhere either on the table. You go by, go into the couch. I may have taken it to the bathroom. When I took a shower, it may have taken me a few minutes to go to the shower. So I can't tell you exactly where I put it.
That console story is an awful specific recollection when you need it to try to make the new story that this jury's hearing and everyone's hearing yesterday and today with the data, correct? But you're awful fuzzy on far more important things, aren't you, Mr. Murdaugh?
Which question? Here, I'll answer the first one first. No, I don't believe that's convenient, and I disagree with your categorization of the description.
All right, but you remember the console story, but you don't remember where you put your phone, whether or not you took it down to the kennels, whether it was in you put it in the Suburban. Don't remember any of that, but Dadgummit, you remember that console story, correct?
Well, I don't remember the console story, but you know, in that Suburban, and it's not the first time that it happened, but when that phone got down there, you had to go to great efforts to get it out, and you couldn't just reach over there and get it out.
All right. You say when you got to the house that Maggie was already there?
Yes.
Okay. And we saw your last steps were at 809.
Well, that's what you saw when this data recorded my last steps. But as you heard this testimony too, Mr. Waters, that's not a precise, that's not a precise, you heard the testimony, you know what it is.
Well, how did you get back to the house? Remind us.
From the shop?
Yeah.
I went in a white pickup truck.
Went in the white pickup truck. Okay. And when you got into the house, where did you go?
We've already discussed this. I took a shower. Whether I did things for a moment before I went to the shower, I'm sure I talked to Maggie because she'd been gone. And if she came through the kennel, which I believe she did, we only talked briefly. So I would have talked to her, but I would have quickly gone to take a shower.
Okay. Going over to page 16. You would agree with me that the data reflects Maggie start logging steps and her phone disconnecting from the Mercedes around 8:17, correct?
I agree. At 8:17, her phone ends connection to her Mercedes.
And starts logging steps.
I don't see that, but I don't dispute it.
Well, you see the purple line talking about it disconnecting from the Mercedes.
I
and
do
then if
see,
you go
I
down
see,
to-
I see where you're talking about. So yeah, I
Yeah.
see it. 8:17, her phone starts logging steps. I agree with that.
Okay. So would you concede that that appears to be when she arrived?
No, I don't believe that's when she arrived. I believe that, it was very normal for Maggie when she's driving to jump out of the car,
Hang on
I
just
go
a
to the
second.
bathroom,
No,
do things.
I got to address something just right quick. So I don't know if I can find it here let me see if I can find it here. Here we go. CB Cal. Found it weird. Blanca said she made tube steak, or Maggie Murdaugh called it steak burger with rice and green beans. Maggie Murdaugh told Paul Murdaugh via text she made country fried steak with mac and cheese. Okay. CB Cal, babe, tube steak is a completely different thing. It's a euphemism for a male appendage. Cubed steak is what Blanca made. That's all I wanted to say. Because I couldn't make it. I had to address it. All right, here we go.
And to see Paul or go back or Buster or go back to her car herself and unplug her phone. So, I agree that on her phone. I believe that Maggie got to the house a little bit before that. That's the whole reason why.
Okay. But you're saying Paul arrived after Maggie. Is that what you're saying? At the house. at
I
this
believe
point in
so.
time?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's what I recall. And Paul arrived at the house after I arrived at the house, I believe.
Thank you, CB Cal, for this moment of levity because we needed it. This fool is everywhere and nowhere at the same time. He's like a ninja.
And if Paul got to the house around about that same time, he wasn't inside with Maggie and I when I went to get to the shower.
So you say if Paul he wasn't inside with Maggie and you? Is that what you said?
Well, now, no, let me think about it.
Mr. Murdaugh, is that what you said?
Hold on, I'm
Sir?
thinking.
You said if Paul got the house prior to that, he wasn't inside with you and Maggie? Is that what you said?
I'm saying he was not inside when I went to get in the shower.
Okay. But again, looking back at this data point, 808, we see a little blue dot right there in the middle of the house, don't we?
Yeah, that's what these records show.
Okay.
And it also shows
Oh, here we
that
go.
circle that folks testified to what the range of what it could
Yeah, absolutely.
be within. So, it clearly could be.
Look at that circle. Look at what's right in the middle of that circle. Almost like somebody drew a circle around the house, don't you agree?
Yeah, I do. But also in that circle is where you would park a truck if you pulled up.
All right.
So, and I'm not saying that he wasn't in the house at some point in time there. But when I went to get in the shower, he wasn't in the house. And he very easily could have been there and been parked in the yard.
All right.
It did sound like they said vag yesterday, CB Cal. It did a little bit, yeah. This is a mess.
You agree at the bottom of page 16
He
that
is getting angry.
about 8:30 Maggie starts tracking steps again on her phone?
Yes, sir. That's what the data shows.
All right.
Now, y'all, I'm good to stream until lunch, the lunch break, and then I'll be back live tonight. We're going to mention it all.
Oops, hit the wrong button.
Oh, Mr. Waters scrolls like your girl
And
Jen
you would
Lou.
agree with me that about 8:38, Paul's phone shows him back up at the kennels.
Well, yes, sir. I agree that at 8:38, let me see which one. It's hard for me to figure out which one of these rings, but at 8:38, it shows Paul in whichever one of those rings is 56 meters wide.
My stomach is eating a hole in my back, but I'm just
And I have no reason to believe he wasn't at the kennel.
And then 8:44:55, we've already gone through this, but that's the kennel video,
But
right?
I think this is
Yes,
the
sir,
first
that's
day
correct.
of Lent, isn't it? So
You
no
agree with me
meat.
that it lasts about 50 seconds, correct?
Y'all know I'm getting up there in age.
Yes, sir.
We're
I
not
agree with
promised
that.
tomorrow, and I got to start
And
acting
you would
right.
agree with me, moving on to page 19, that both Maggie and Paul's phones locked for the final time around 8:49.
That's what the data shows.
After that, you agree that
Oh, the poop's not
Maggie's
pleased.
phone around 8:53 shows some steps being taken?
That's what the data shows. Yes, sir.
Data doesn't show who's carrying it, but that's what it shows. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then you would agree with me that from 9:02 to 9:06, your phone finally comes to life and starts showing a lot of steps.
I do agree with that.
What were you doing?
Yes.
I was getting ready to go to my mom's house.
Getting ready to go? I thought you took a shower already. You were just laying down on the couch. What all you need to do to get ready to go to your mom's house?
I mean, there wasn't anything to get ready in that aspect,
Wasn't
but
anything to get
I
ready,
was
was it?
getting ready to go. I was preparing to leave.
Doing what?
I don't know if I got up, went to the bathroom. I don't know. I can't tell you exactly what I was doing.
That's far more steps in a shorter time period than any time prior, as you've seen from the testimony in this case. So what were you so busy doing?
That's
Going to the bathroom?
no, I don't think that I
Get on a
went to
treadmill?
the bathroom. No, I didn't get on the treadmill.
I'm gone. That's it.
Jog in place?
Nope, I didn't jog in
Jumping
place.
jacks?
No, sir, I did not do jumping jacks.
What were you doing, Mr. Murdaugh, for those 4 minutes?
Preparing to leave for my mom's house.
What? What does that mean? I mean, you're in the front room on that couch where you say you laid down. The Suburban's just right outside. What all are you doing?
I don't know if I got up and went to my room, went to the gun room,
Jesus, I'll be right back.
went back in that.
You've been so clear in your new story about everything. What were you doing during these 4 minutes?
I disagree with your assertion about every detail. I don't recall. I know that I was getting up and I was leaving. I was going to check on my mom. But specifically what I was doing, I don't know. I know what I wasn't doing, Mr. Waters, and what I wasn't doing is doing anything, as I believe you've implied, that I was cleaning off or washing off guns, or putting guns in a raincoat, and I can promise you that I wasn't doing any of that.
Okay. Also, during this 4 minutes where you got 283 steps, not only are you moving around a lot, but you're making a ton of phone calls. Because that in that same time period, you see this red line right here, where over that 4 minute period, all those steps were taken. That's also when you're calling, making all these phone calls, isn't it, Mr. Murdaugh?
Well, I made the
So when
phone
you're running this
calls.
place and making phone calls, is that what you're?
Be allowed to answer before Mr. Waters steps on him again with another question. Please. Thank you.
All right.
You were making all these phone calls while you were taking all these steps. Would you concede that? Where you don't remember what you were doing?
Well, I was making phone calls and that's shown here. At 9:05, I called my dad. You know, I don't know that I was taking steps like you're saying I'm taking steps. I heard the same testimony you heard, Mr. Waters, and, you know, steps can be recorded any number of ways. I don't have a specific recollection of walking around. I don't know if I was hitting my phone like the guy showed or doing whatever that makes steps, but you know.
So you were hitting your phone like that while you were making all these phone calls?
Hang on, no, sir. What I'm saying, Mr. Waters, I don't know that. I'm just giving you an example. You're saying that I'm running around taking these steps, and while I'm doing that, I'm making telephone calls. What I will agree with is that this data shows that there was 283 steps recorded on my phone. And sometime during that period, I made certain phone calls.
Okay. All right. So not only for whatever it is recording steps, but you're also making a ton of phone calls, including missed calls to Maggie, who is 1,100 feet away, supposedly.
You're using the term a ton of phone calls.
Yeah.
What I agree is that I made the phone calls that are listed on these call data records, which, you know, are very normal phone calls for me.
Do you know why so many phone calls were missing from the log around this relevant time period when law enforcement downloaded your phone on June 10th?
From my phone?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Did you delete them, Mr. Murdaugh?
Not intentionally.
Just around the time of June 7th, all these calls are missing, but you had nothing to do with that between June 7th and June 10th.
No, sir, I did not. And I did not delete phone calls from my phone. Mr. Waters, one of the most important things in this whole thing for me has been getting this data that I believe would exist. Phone calls and phone records would be part of that. I've been in enough civil cases and used phone records enough times to know that you delete a phone call from your phone, it doesn't disappear. So I can tell you, this jury, and everybody who's listening that I did not intentionally delete phone calls from my phone.
Yeah, because you started talking about you're a former prosecutor, correct? And former lawyer doing civil cases. We went through that yesterday. And boy, you're busy bee on that phone and right out of the gate at 9:02, right?
Objections overruled.
Am I a busy bee?
Yeah.
I am using my telephone at, I think I call at 9:05, I start and call my dad, and I agree that I made other phone calls.
And one of the first things you start talking about with law enforcement is these calls that you made to Maggie. Correct? You recall that from your first statement to law enforcement?
One of the first things that I said to law enforcement?
Yeah, that's one of the things you talk about. I'm talking about with your interview with Special Agent Dave Owen.
I don't remember that being the first thing we talked about, but
First things.
if Mr. Owens asked me about it, then
No, you brought
Sure.
it up, didn't you?
I did.
You don't recall?
No, I don't recall.
Would you dispute me if I said you brought it up?
That I brought up, what, brought up
Your
what?
phone, Mr. Murdaugh, your phone.
Phone calls to Maggie?
Yes.
That I
Let me pause for commentary here and fair use. Mr. Waters, while I appreciate the use of the term busy bee, normally I like it. I used to use that term frequently myself. However, I don't think that we have all recovered sufficiently enough for you to be bringing up bees. We have not recovered from the Heard Depp trial and the dog stepping on a bee. So please, we're not ready. That's all I wanted to say.
brought up phone calls to Maggie to David Owens.
I'm asking you, is that one of the things that you talked about in your first interview with Dave Owen?
It is. The
That
answer
you
is
pulled out
yes.
your phone and started looking at it, that you brought that up. Do you recall that?
Yes, he
Well,
did do it.
but that's not what you asked, Mr. Owens.
Oh,
You
my
asked me, was that
goodness.
the first thing that I talked to him about? And that was the discrepancy. I certainly don't dispute that Mr. Owens and I talked about phone calls. But that's not what you said.
Thank
So
you.
just to be clear.
Well, the real reason, Mr. Murdaugh, is that you as a lawyer and prosecutor are up at 9:02, finally having your phone in your hand, moving around and making all these phone calls to manufacture an alibi. Is that not true?
That's absolutely incorrect.
So that's just another circumstance and coincidence in this particular case. Right around the time that you lied to law enforcement about maybe one of the most important facts in the case.
Comment before the question.
It is an absolute fact that I am not manufacturing an alibi, as you say.
How do you remember so much detail about everything else, but you don't remember what you were specifically doing to generate 283 steps while you're making all these phone calls in the same 4-minute period?
I remember unequivocally, without any
to
doubt,
sweat.
with as clear a mind as I could have
Mm-hmm.
at any time, that I never manufactured any alibi in any way, shape, or form, because I did not and would not hurt my wife and my child.
So why
So
can't
I
you
know
remember
for a
what you
fact
were doing?
that I never, ever, ever created an alibi.
Why don't you remember what you were doing when you were so busy for this 4-minute critical period?
I do
Other
remember
than
what I was doing.
Other than I was getting ready to go.
Well, that's because that's what I was doing.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's keep going. You made those calls
Night, Mel. Thanks for coming in, babe.
to Maggie in that 4-minute period. You had just seen them a few minutes ago when you say you went down there and came right back. Why didn't you just take that quick little left 1,100 yards away and stop by? See why they didn't answer the call. You're obviously wanting to get in touch with them. Why didn't you go down to the kennels that were so close by?
There was no reason to.
Hey, LFT, good to see you, babe.
I mean,
Making multiple
have a
missed
great
calls
day.
to Maggie, and she's so close. And there's a driveway right there. Why do you not just go down there and say, hey, guys,
What's
I'm
up?
heading over there?
it wasn't important to do that.
But
Me
it was
making those phone
important.
calls
Okay.
is simply me letting, I believe I called Maggie and I called Paul.
Uh-huh.
But that's simply me just letting them know that I'm leaving for a minute. I'll be back. The fact that they don't answer is not unusual at all. Now, it is odd. It is unusual that they never call
He
me
gonna
back.
make me break into a song.
But at that moment, the fact that there's a missed call, when I know they're on the property, I mean, that doesn't even register at all. That's perfectly normal to try to call somebody who's on the property and not be able to get them. And as far as not going down there,
Look at the poop.
there was no sense of urgency. Maggie was
Look at
with
him.
Paul.
I think
you know-
the food has the sweats.
She should be as safe as she could be.
It's not unusual for me to take 280 steps. But
she should.
it's not unusual for me
Um,
to call everyone. That's all I got.
Did you talk with Maggie about going to Alameda when you were at the kennels?
No, I don't believe I did.
Did you talk with Maggie about going to Alameda during supper?
I know that we had talked about it. I had talked, I don't believe we talked about it at supper, but we may have. I know that I had talked about that I was going to go over there. And then I decided that I wasn't going to go over there.
Okay.
So what was your conversation at supper? Tell me specifically, if you could, please.
I
About
can't-
going to Alameda.
I can't tell you that we specifically talked about it. The only thing that I can tell you we specifically talked about at supper was Paw Paw.
All right. And what was the conversation?
I can't tell you shit.
Maggie was
No water.
just concerned. Paul had been having, for a young person, Paul had been having high blood pressure. This to go to the doctor. And this has been going on for a little while, but lately Paul's feet had swollen. And for a 22-year-old to start having swollen feet concerned both of us. And it particularly concerned Maggie. And we talked about that.
Okay. Did y'all talk about Mr. Randolph at all?
I'm sure we did.
Do you remember that group text coming in about whether or not anybody was going to go see Mr. Randolph at the hospital the next day?
Do I remember it coming in?
Yeah.
I don't remember it coming in,
Because
but
you didn't read it till the next day. But
I've seen the data.
why didn't you? Did you ever text the group and say you were going to Alameda at all?
No,
Did you and Maggie ever specifically discuss her going along with you to Alameda?
I don't believe that we did. I know that there was a point in time where I said Maggie might go, but it's
Hey, Heather, whatever.
highly unusual for Maggie to go and visit just my mom.
No, we're in the South Coast.
That whole situation,
supper.
it just made Maggie sad, and she didn't like to go. So
You
I don't believe that we did, but I do acknowledge that at some point I said she might go for some reason.
You told law enforcement on multiple occasions that, first of all, Maggie was planning to stay at Edisto the night of June 7th, correct?
I did say that.
All right. And you also said that you came to find out that she came home of her own accord, correct? You told that to law enforcement. Is that true?
She did come home of her own accord.
That she decided on her own to come home because she was worried about you. Isn't that what you said?
I did say that, and I believe that to be the case.
All right. But since despite what you told law enforcement, we've since seen the text that you actually called her and asked her to come home on the night of June 7th.
No, sir, that's not correct.
That's not correct?
No, sir, that's absolutely not correct.
All right. So you heard your sister-in-law, Marion, testify to just that fact of a conversation she had with Maggie, but you're saying that's not true?
I don't believe that's what Marion said.
That is what she
And
said. What are you talking
Your
about?
defense put in this exhibit 107, where Maggie texted Blanca and said, Alec wants me to come home.
I've seen that. I agree with that.
So
Is that it up on the screen? Oh, I've got the wrong input here. I'll just hold it up. You've seen this text?
I have seen that. Mr. Waters, the only dispute I have with what you're saying is you're saying that I called Maggie and wanted her to come home. I always wanted Maggie to come home, and I would have talked to Maggie about coming home before she ever left to go to Charleston and to Edisto. And I can tell you this,
tell me. We all want to know.
and I didn't realize this at the time, but I realize it now,
Okay.
that Maggie was already undecided. Now, I didn't know this, but Maggie was already undecided about staying at Edisto. I can promise you that, because Bubba and Grady were in their kennels, as y'all well know, that night. That day, if Maggie was certain that she was spending the night at Edisto, at a minimum, Bubba would have been with her, and probably both dogs would have been with her. It was very unusual for her to spend the night anywhere without one of us or those dogs. So
you're
that
saying,
tells me that when she left that morning, she was already seriously thinking about coming back.
So you're saying that you never called her and had a conversation that day asking her to come home, specifically on the night of June 7th, 2021.
Maggie and I had a couple of phone conversations that day. What I'm telling you is that before she left, no, I don't believe we had a phone call about that. We may have discussed it during the phone call, but I didn't make a phone call to her to ask her to come home. I had already told her I wanted her to come home. I always wanted her to come home. You heard Marion say that too, that I always wanted Maggie with me.
Maggie thought enough of it to talk about it with Marion, didn't she?
The fact that I wanted her to come home?
Correct.
Well, sure. I mean, that's what Marion said.
So you're denying that you called Maggie and specifically asked her to come home that night?
I didn't make a phone call to Maggie to ask her to come home that night. I asked Maggie to come home long before she ever left. And I probably asked her again each time I talked to her, but I didn't make the phone call specifically for that, as you're saying.
Okay.
And to be clear, I'm certain that if Maggie was certain that she was spending the night, Bubba would have been with her and probably Grady.
All right. Why did you tell law enforcement, though, that you found out after the fact that Maggie wanted to come home because she was concerned about you? Why'd you phrase it that way if what you're saying to the jury now was accurate? Why would you phrase it that way?
Because I believe that to be the case.
That you found out afterwards, but now you're saying you knew.
No, I'm saying I found out afterwards why she came home, Mr. Waters.
Okay.
And she came home because she was worried about me. So I'm going to be clear about that. I did not learn that until
Clear as mud.
I think the day after she got killed.
But you're saying that you found out that after the fact, but you're telling this jury that you knew the things that you just said about her wanting to come home. And you were unaware of what Marion would say at that point either.
No, I'm saying at that time, I had not thought about Bubba and Grady. Since that time, I've thought about that. I'm certain of that. At the time, I thought Maggie was staying at Edisto. All right. She was going to Edisto to meet the people, to do the work. Maggie loved to stay at Edisto. There's no doubt about that. It would not be unusual at all for her to stay at Edisto. But just like every other time, I had already asked her, please come back, come back. Always wanted her to stay with me. Always. But I did not learn about, and Maggie even texted me, I'll see you in a few hours. But I did not know why she decided to come back until later, is what I'm saying. And I learned it from Blanca. Blanca actually showed me the text that she sent her talking about being worried about me.
You would agree with me that you sent a text to Maggie at 9:08:58 while in motion in the Suburban, as reflected by the data?
I do. Which was because I couldn't reach them by the telephone, and I wanted them to know where I was.
Okay.
Which is what we do.
All right.
And you got to Alameda around 9:22?
I believe that's correct.
I can go down to it.
No, I don't have any reason to dispute that.
Made some more phone calls along the way?
I did make more phone calls along the way while I was riding.
Called Chris Wilson?
I did call Chris Wilson.
Had a short conversation with him? Is that right?
I did have a conversation for however long the record show.
About 131 seconds. That sound about right?
Couple minutes.
If that's what the record show, 2 minutes.
Called your brother John Marvin for about 106 seconds, including connection time. Does that sound about right?
That does sound about right.
Agreed, Angela. Agreed.
Arrived at 9:22. Does that sound about right?
It does.
No, Charlie.
And then
he's got,
at 9:24, you call, that's the landline at Alameda. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then you went inside. Is that right?
Yeah, that's
Talked to
right.
Miss Shelley.
That's right. I called the house phone to get Shelley to let me in.
And when you were asked by law enforcement how long you were at your mother's house, you said 45 minutes to an hour. Isn't that correct?
I think I said a couple of different things, but I think at one
that
time
makes it even worse.
I did say that. But, routinely through these things, I kept saying, when you get this data, you'll see exactly. When you look at my phone, you'll see exactly. When you do, me giving the times was always given with that, okay, there's OnStar out there, there's whatever.
But when you had a conversation with Miss Shelley after the fact, you actually asked her to say that you were there longer than 20 minutes.
I heard Shelley's testimony.
We all did.
I believe Shelley to be a good person. I wasn't trying to influence Shelley on any particular length of time because at the beginning of this, I believed that data would show what data would show. And for me to tell her to say something when my OnStar is going to show something different just doesn't make any sense.
No, it
So,
doesn't make any sense, but you still tried it.
I can't answer that. What my recollection is that I told Shelley that law enforcement would be talking to her. We may have discussed how long I was there. At that point in time, if I thought I was there 45 minutes, I may have said I was here 45 minutes, but I can't tell you.
All right. And that's the same thing that Blanca testified to, that you talked to her about the clothes that you were wearing. It made her uncomfortable, correct?
Ask that question again.
It's similar to your conversation with Blanca that she testified about when you talked to her about the clothes that you were supposedly wearing. What made her feel uncomfortable? Do you remember that testimony, sir?
What's similar to that?
Well, that you're talking to both of these individuals about their testimony in a manner that's inconsistent with what they know.
No, I don't think your assertion is accurate. You have to understand this. On August the 11th, when I went to meet with David Owens, and in that, David Owens asked me about,
Yes.
he
Charlie,
showed me
they
that
can.
Snapchat and asked me about clothes that I had on.
And they will.
And shortly after that, the next time I was with Blanca, I asked Blanca about those clothes because David Owens had asked me about them and was made an issue about it. And so I checked with Blanca to see what I specifically asked Blanca, and it was an issue to me. So I got Blanca and I said, I need you to sit down and talk with me about this. This is important. Do you remember my clothes when you came to Moselle that day? And she remembered exactly what she testified to. She remembered my pants were there. She wasn't sure if the shirt was there. At that time, I think she actually thought the shirt was there, but she was clear that she wasn't sure about that. No, she wasn't unsure, but she didn't remember, but assumed that it was. So that was the conversation and why I was asking Blanca.
Do y'all think the jury is buying this?
Is that correct, Mr. Murdaugh?
You dang right. I'm consistent about that because a very short time before that, David Owens is asking me questions and telling me I'm a suspect in the murder of my wife and my child and asking me about my clothes, you dang right it was important.
It was important, right?
And you dang right I remember why I went to her and for what reason.
Because the only thing you're concerned about is yourself. You're not concerned about giving accurate information to law enforcement, correct? What's the reason for that, Mr. Murdaugh? Why don't you want to give accurate information to law enforcement? Why do you want to talk to these women who both are employed by you or your family and try to influence what they are going to say?
I did want to give law enforcement accurate information. I told a lie about being down there, and I got myself wed to that. But I wanted to give them as much. I knew that I hadn't done this, and I wanted to give them as much accurate information as I could. But the reason I went to Blanca is specifically because David Owens talking to me on August the 11th.
Okay. You can see that you're underway about 9:42, heading back.
I
9:42 to 9:43.
I do.
I don't think he does either, Angela.
on those
I don't
about
even think he
10:01.
believes what he's saying. I don't see how he could possibly.
Turned into Moselle at 10:01.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry.
it looks to me like I turned into Moselle at 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock on the dot, sorry.
Yes, sir.
At the house at 10:05.
Yes, sir.
And then that's when you went back to the kennels after you came back from Alameda, correct?
I went to the kennels after I went to the house at, I went from Alameda to the house, to the kennels.
And we got to the scene. You got out of the car, according to what you told law enforcement repeatedly, and went and checked the bodies, correct? Before you called 911. Is that correct?
No, sir, that's not correct.
You're saying you didn't say that to law enforcement?
I don't know what I said to law enforcement, Mr. Waters, but I can tell you this. I pulled up and I saw Agent Paw. I jumped out of that car. I know that I went back to my car and I called 911 as quickly as I could. That point in time, when I got on the phone, then is when I went to them and did the things that I did. So what you're saying is not accurate.
You're saying that you didn't say very specifically to law enforcement that you went to them prior to calling 911.
When?
Ever.
After you got out of the car, you told law enforcement repeatedly that you went over and checked the bodies before you called 911.
No, I don't. If I did say that, I don't believe that's accurate. Did I check Maggie and Paul before I called 911?
Correct.
No, sir. That's not accurate. At least that's not what I remember.
But
That's not what you remember saying, or that's not what you say now happened?
No, that's not what I believe happened.
But why'd you say
But
it?
you don't deny that's what you said.
Did I check Maggie and Paul before I called 911?
Correct.
I don't believe that's what I said.
It is what you said. It is what he said.
Now, I know I checked them, but I don't believe I checked them before I called 911.
But that's what you said you did.
Because I can pretty well remember vividly
Show him,
when I
Mr.
checked
Waters.
Paw.
He needs help.
I was already on the phone with
refresh his
911.
recollection.
Looking at this data, to show the vehicle parking at 10:05 and 55 seconds,
Yes, sir.
10:05:57. The Suburban arrives at the kennels. You agree with that?
I'm sorry, say that again, Mr. Waters.
At 10:05:57, it shows the Suburban arriving at the kennels.
Okay. Okay.
The 911 call was at 10:06:14,
Okay.
just about 20 seconds later. You agree with that?
I think that sounds right. Yes, sir. I mean, that makes sense. But that goes back to what I'm saying is I pulled up. I saw them, and I know I jumped out of my car. But I believe that before I checked them, in fact, I'm almost certain, then I went back and I got that's when I went and got my phone and I called 911.
Okay.
And then after I called 911, there was a little while where there wasn't, I don't think there was anything going on. And I believe that is the time period that I went and checked on them.
They did catch him in alive. This is bad news bears.
I don't want to belabor this point, but what you're saying here today, now that we have
Let me
this
see what
data, that's not
quit's
exactly
doing.
expressed in the law enforcement in your prior statements. Is that correct?
No, sir, I disagree with that. I totally disagree with that, Mr. Waters. Will you point to
His
what you're
lives have
talking
been
about?
refilled and he's playing Matchington and Griffin is over here filling out the highlights. Word search. They're completely checked out. Oh, I agree with that, Corky. I believe that the jurors are paying very close attention and that actually although I felt like he got into the weeds a little bit yesterday and early today with the financial stuff, ending on the timeline was a good idea. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And there might be some that are conflicted. There might be. Well, I know that there are several jurors during the jury process who recused themselves, who were very upfront and honest immediately and said that they could not sit on this jury because they were connected to the Murdaughs in some form or fashion. Mainly, they had been represented by one of them. Oh, here we go. Waters brung the rusting.
All right, sir.
Here we go.
I left the house without my watch.
12:57.
All right, Mr. Murdaugh, state your full name for me, please.
Richard Alexander Murdaugh.
And spell your last name so I can get it correct.
Murdaugh.
All right. And you go by Alec?
Yes, sir.
And date of birth, Mr. Murdaugh?
May 27th, 1968.
Excuse me, young.
And good phone number again.
803-942-1227.
All right. And sir, what was your name?
Yeah, Danny Henderson.
Okay. All right. As I stated, I'm David Owen in Lower Rutland with Collin County. I'm with SLED. I hate to have to do this.
I understand.
Yeah.
I totally
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
So you don't have any problem with it.
So, just start at the top, take your time.
Like when I came back here, I mean, I pulled up and I could see him, and I knew something was bad. I ran out. I knew it was really bad. And my boy over there, I could see it was. And I could see his brain.
They haven't shown Buster that much here in Canada.
And I ran over to Maggie. And actually, I think I tried to turn Paul over first. I tried to turn him over, and I don't know, I figured it out. His cell phone popped out of his pocket. I started to try to do something with it, thinking maybe, but then I put it back down really quickly. Then I went to my wife, and I could see.
Did you touch Maggie at all?
I did. I touched them both.
Okay.
I tried to do it as limited as possible, but I tried to take their pulse on both of them. And, I called 911 pretty much right away. And she was very good.
I'm sure the 911 operator appreciates your excellent Google.
I talked to her. I told her I was going to get off the phone to call some family members. I did that.
What family members did you call?
I called my brother Randy, and I called my brother John.
List. Oh no, sorry, my bad.
And I tried to call a little boy, a real good friend that's right around the corner from here, but I didn't get him.
The person you didn't name that was rubbing the little boy right around the corner, is that who you're talking about?
That's correct. But going back to your question, I mean, that's the way I remember it, what I said right there. And your question about did I do these things before I called 911, that's not what I said then. And that's not what I remember now.
What?
So you're saying now that you went out You checked, you came back, got your phone, and that's when you called 911?
I'm not saying that now, Mr. Woods. I am saying that now, but to me, that's what I said then. I mean, I told her, I called 911 right away. There was no time to do the things that I'm talking about doing in the time between getting there and calling 911.
When you talked about calling Rogan, and you said that he lived right around the corner, correct?
That's correct.
But Rogan wasn't staying there at the time. That's the whole reason that Cash was at your kennel, right? You knew that.
Well, Rogan was staying in Beaufort a lot, but he was home a lot too. I didn't know where Rogan was on a daily basis.
About keeping his dog Cash at the kennels when he was staying with his girlfriend and working down in Beaufort?
Yes, he had asked me that. But I mean, that had been some time before. I didn't know.
Your memory
Making a
is
big deal about this,
terrible,
Mr.
and
Waters,
it makes me
particular
scared that you're a
night.
lawyer and got other
I
people's
didn't have a clue
lives
where Rogan
and
was
cases
staying
in
or
your
not
hands
staying.
with
I was
this
trying to
terrible
find
memory.
somebody to come out there with me. I'd called Randy, I'd called John, and Rogan was the next best alternative.
Okay.
And Rogan is so close. I mean, Rogan, of all these kids that you've heard, Rogan, Gibson, I mean, Roro is like a Rogan. You prefer when I call him Rogan, is truly like a son to Maggie and I. And he was such a good friend to Buster, and he was such a good friend to Paul. And you've been through everything I have. You'll see that 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior to this, I ran out of gas when Bus and Paw weren't home. And Rogan's the person that I called to bring me gas.
Nobody's disputing any that Rogan
Is a good
would have
kid.
helped you. Let me keep playing
Was
this.
around Paul when you walked up.
Blood.
Anything else?
I mean, there were some body things, yes, sir.
I mean, like any other evidence? I know you said the phone fell out of the pocket, but did you see anything else that didn't belong or shouldn't belong or that wasn't part of Paul?
No, sir, not. No, sir.
How about Maggie?
No, sir.
You didn't see anything around them? What made you come out here tonight?
My mom's a late stage Alzheimer's patient. My dad's in the hospital. My mom gets anxious when she does. I went to check on them and Maggie. Maggie's a dog lover and she fools with the dogs. And I knew she'd gone to the kennel. I was at the house.
You just testified that in the wake of this, you didn't know what you said to law enforcement. That was what you just said.
No, I mean, I know a lot of what I said to law enforcement, but there's a lot of things in looking back at this video for one, the 911 call for one. I mean, there's a lot of things that I didn't remember.
Okay. But right then and there, just not long into this interview, you made a conscious decision to lie right there.
Play that again?
You said, I was at the house.
And I knew she'd gone to the kennel. I was at the house. I left the house. Play.
How
You
many
want me to back it
times
up
do you
some more?
need to hear it? My Lord.
Yeah, we can keep
All right,
listening to it.
play it again.
Anything around them? What made you come out here tonight?
My mom's a late stage Alzheimer's patient. My dad's in the hospital. My mom gets anxious when she does. I went to check on them and Maggie. Maggie's a dog lover and she fools with the dogs. And I knew she'd gone to the kennel. I was at the house.
You want to hear it again?
No, sir, but I don't
So you
think,
made a conscious decision to lie right there, this early into an interview, sitting in the front seat, correct?
I don't believe so.
You didn't make a conscious decision to lie?
I don't believe that. I don't believe that was lying at that point,
Okay, tell me why not.
because Maggie had gone to the kennels and I was at the house.
Okay. So you think that was not a lie at that point?
I don't believe so.
At what point did you decide to lie?
I'm not sure, but it was in that.
It was in this interview?
I believe that it was.
Okay, was this interview where you're sitting in the front seat, correct?
It is.
You're not in custody, correct?
I'm not in custody.
They're giving you water, letting you chew tobacco, treating you politely, correct?
They were treating me very politely.
So what was it that clicked? So you said in this interview that it clicked that I'm gonna lie about the most important fact that I know?
I'm not sure exactly when in it that I lied,
I don't know.
decided to lie.
I wouldn't have got my big ass up on
Believe
that.
it was during this interview.
No.
I believe all those things that I talked
Nope.
about, you know, those things that had gone on, the things that people had said to me about don't talk to anybody without a
Honestly, I
lawyer.
think Angela, his brothers
Partners
are
all
thinking
told me
this is
that.
bad.
A lot of my partners told me that. My dear friend, Chief Alexander, was one who said that. I overheard, I believe it was Sheriff Hill, I'm not positive. I overheard him tell, I believe Mark Baller Gray Holmes, don't let him talk to anybody without a lawyer. And what I believe is that based on my distrust of SLED and getting in that interview, and I'm not positive about this, but I believe when he asked me, you know, about my relationship with my wife and my son, I believe that's when I decided to lie.
You
But I'm
also
not
left
positive.
out when you had the GSR too, because that's what you testified to yesterday.
That certainly contributed.
And your dope paranoia too. You said that as well, correct?
Well, those things are what triggered the paranoia that started as my addiction evolved.
And so you're an experienced lawyer and you've been a prosecutor, and you took the advice of your law partners that you should have a lawyer there, as you read that as, oh, I should lie.
No, that's not an accurate.
Because that's not what that means, is it, Mr. Murdaugh?
Well, that's not an accurate statement, what you just said, Mr. Waters.
I just repeated what you just said. You said it was one of the factors was your law partners, and now you're blaming Sheriff Hill and Greg Alexander told you that you needed a lawyer before you talked to police, and you took that somehow as meaning I need to lie
No.
as a lawyer and a prosecutor?
No, that's what you said, Mr. Waters, but
How am I mischaracterizing it from your perspective, Mr. Murdaugh? Because I think isn't that what you heard? Isn't that what you just said? Excuse me.
No, sir, that's not what I said.
All right,
So,
well, say it again.
I believe those guys were trying to help me. I believe they cared about me. I believe they thought that I was in a condition such that I shouldn't talk to anybody. I mean, those guys had to prop me up, help me get myself together just to be able to go talk to David Owens. I mean, they were trying to help me. But before that, that was just one of the many things that I believe led to that situation sitting in there where those paranoid thoughts came to me. Them talking about not talking to anybody without a lawyer, Brian Varnadoe, checking my hands, the fact that I got a pocket full of pills in my pocket. I was the person who found Maggie and Paul. My distrust for SLED. All of those factors combined and made me decide to lie. I also know him asking me about Maggie and Paw contributed to that paranoia. All I'm saying is I'm not disputing that I lied. I'm just saying at this point, you're saying I made a conscious decision to lie here, and I'm saying I don't think I made a conscious decision right there.
Okay, so it's later.
I believe so.
Had you already had your GSR done at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I had.
And you already talked to your law partners and talked to and heard Sheriff Hill. Now you're blaming him and
I'm not-
blaming
no.
Chief Alexander now as well for your lies.
No, sir, Mr. Waters.
You just added that one. You didn't say that yesterday. You just added that one.
Be given an opportunity to answer the question.
You can finish your last answer.
All right. Mr. Waters, I'm not blaming anybody. I accept full responsibility for what I did. What I'm saying is what I believe contributed to me doing that and the reason why I did that. I think those folks were trying to help me. So I don't blame them. I think they were worried about me.
Okay. I don't dispute that, but you're saying you took that advice as I need to lie.
Nah, what you're doing is you're isolating one single
I'm not
thing.
isolating anything. I've mentioned all the factors. You've added some new ones, but I mentioned all the factors that you're blaming for
No,
your
sir.
decision to lie.
That's not what you did. What you asked me is you said, I took my partners telling me not to talk to somebody without a lawyer as a reason to lie. And that's an inaccurate statement. That was one of the factors that went into a series,
decision to lie.
hang on, Mr. Waters, a series of events, all right, that caused me to have paranoid thinking, all right, and then I lied.
All right. But at some point it happened during this interview that you crossed over. You're saying that you came into this interview intending to be fully disclosing to everything, and something happened in this interview that sent you over the edge, and you said, hey, let me lie about the last time I saw my wife and child alive, supposedly, according to me.
I certainly didn't go into that interview, I believe, intending to lie. Mr.
Okay.
Waters, I wasn't capable at that point in time of planning anything or thinking through anything.
So somehow during this interview, all of a sudden those senses came to you to plan and do that.
When I got to thinking in that paranoid way that normally, as I said, I mean, I could take a deep breath and make it go away. I never had a situation where it lasted more than a matter of seconds. That night, after all those things had happened, it didn't go away in a matter of seconds. And I decided to lie.
Those are the clothes that you ultimately gave to Dave Owen. Is that right?
Those are the clothes I gave to David Owens.
At what point did you be able to chuck the pills you say are in your pocket? When did you do that?
When I was
Oh
in my
my
bedroom.
God. Hold
You're in
on a
bedroom?
second.
Yes, sir.
Where'd you put them?
I totally forgot about this. This is an excellent point because David Owen was standing in the doorway of the bedroom where Alec Murdaugh was changing. And he had to have pulled those pills out. I mean, it's possible, but I totally forgot about that part. Because I think David Owen testified that he did give him a little privacy, maybe turned his back for a second or something. I can't remember now. Holy cannolis. Here we go.
I'm not sure where I put them, but ultimately they would have gone in my suitcase.
So that's when you did it? You have a
Case you didn't-
specific recollection of that?
Okay.
I just know that I took them out of my pocket.
If we watch this whole video, you think you could, if we watch the whole thing, you think you can say, okay, that's the moment where my senses came to me and I decided I was going to tell this major lie?
I don't know that it happened like that, but
How did it
then
happen?
I may be
then?
able to tell you some things that contributed to it. We watched the whole thing.
We've heard that. I just want to be clear, though. This one, at some point during this interview, when you were able to plan your lie about this event. And you made that decision.
Obviously,
but it wasn't what we just played. It wasn't yet. It was some point after that.
I don't think that's a lie right there. Is the reason why I don't think that it's occurred before this, because what I'm saying there, I believe to be truthful. And I know this. I know for a fact that when David Owens asked me about my relationship with my wife and my child, I know that that played a role in that. And I believe that, and I may be wrong, but I believe that this was before that.
You ever heard the expression, not telling the whole truth is the same as telling the lie?
Sure have.
That's something you understood
I'm sorry, y'all. I
as a
should not be
lawyer
singing.
and a prosecutor?
Ever.
Yes.
All right.
All right, Mr. State your full name for me, please.
Richard Alexander.
No, Charlie, we know, but you, this is, you're part of
Thanks,
it.
sir.
Yeah.
Correct.
You're in it now.
Murdaugh.
All right. And you go by Alec?
Yes, sir.
And date of birth, Mr. Murdaugh?
May 27th, 1968,
And good phone number for you.
803-942-1227.
All right. And sir, what was your name?
Yeah, Danny Henderson.
Okay. All right. As I stated, I'm David Owen in Lower Rutland with Colleton County. I'm misled. I hate to have to do this.
I understand.
Yeah.
I totally understand.
Yeah.
So you don't have any problem with it.
So,
You hadn't decided there, correct?
I don't believe so.
You told David Owen that you understood that he had to ask questions and you do what you need to do, correct?
That is what I told him.
Mr. Waters, you better get this show on the road, sir, and get this video played. You want to take a break now? You want to let him regroup?
Gentlemen, addressing the jury, we'll break till 2:15. We'll go to the jury room. Please do not discuss the case.
I disagree with that decision, but okay. Y'all, I don't even have words. I really do not. This has been 2:15, babe, an hour and 15 minutes. The poot, bless his little, bless his heart. Bless his little Yoda looking ass heart. He's had enough. And I cannot even believe that. I don't think this was a good time to take a break. I think he had him on the ropes right then. And he wanted to play that video. I don't know what they do with Alec during lunch. However, I would imagine that he is afforded the opportunity to speak with his attorneys, and they both have phones because Jim, Poop, I know y'all are either playing Candy Crush or Matchington. I haven't decided which, but y'all can add me. I'll send you lives. But they've got their phones, and it would be nothing for them to go to YouTube and find that interrogation video, and for him to be able to collect himself and gather up, better. I don't know how, I don't even know how he's going to dig himself out of this, but he's going to try. I just think I would have kept on going. Now, as far as the pills go, that is something that I'm going to watch tonight in between now when I go live again tonight while we're on our break, because I am curious about that time period. And when I know he said he gave him privacy, but I'm not exactly sure what he said as far as what he did to give him privacy, and if he would have had time to pull a pocket full of pills out of his pocket. Because I'm curious how he kept them pills. Did he keep them pills in a bag? The pills make noise. I don't know. Excuse me. Sorry. He did make a decent save. I don't know if it was enough in the totality of the situation, truth teller. I really do not. But so this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna adjourn for a while, and I will be back tonight. I believe that Decipher podcast has a live scheduled at 10. So I think I will come live at like 8. And we'll finish up this cross-examination. I don't know the way this is going. I'm not I don't know if Mr. Waters is going to be done by today. He said yes, but he also knows that the defense has 2 witnesses that they intend to put up on the stand, and that they are they're footing their travel expenses and their hotel, and for them to have to stay in the hotel over the weekend would be a lot of money. And I don't know how that's going to go, but yes, Angela, I'm sorry, babe, 8 Eastern time. Oh, Kez, you're such a trooper to stay up all night, babe. So yes, I will be live again at 8 Eastern. And we'll mention it all, because I can't imagine this is going to go any better. Y'all have some lunch and maybe a nap. I know I'm going to eat some lunch. I'm hungry. My stomach is eating a hole in my back. All right, y'all. Have a great rest of your Friday afternoon. Thank you for spending time with me. If you haven't done so already, give your girl a thumbs up if you would, please. I'd appreciate it. And I'll see y'all back here tonight at 8. Yes, may the force be with us all, because we need it. All right. Bye, y'all.